where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you all the way through until 6 p.m. on this glorious afternoon. We've got a cracking show. Here's what's on your menu today. Top story today, energy bills will surge by more than £200 a year for millions as Ofgem increases the price cap.
My electric last month was £160 monthly, and that's just electric on its own. They don't care about us anymore. That's why the way I look at it anyway. They don't care about us.
As British pensioners feel the pinch, Ed Miliband's solution, of course, is to keep pushing ahead and doubling down with his net zero agenda, and he's still howling into the wind.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Today it's time for the conversation. Let's finally admit it. Is net zero killing Britain? Next story today, Sir Tony Blair has launched a scathing attack on Sir Keir Starmer, saying he has no plan to fix Britain, as he warns against retreating to the so-called comfort zone of left-wing politics. Meanwhile, on the right, another spat, this time between Reform UK's Zia Youssef and Robert Jenrick over deporting foreigners who live in social housing. Well, that has sparked a nationwide debate. Roughly half of all social housing in London, in Birmingham, in Leicester, given over to immigrants. Is it time to kick them out of their houses, or perhaps even kick them out of the country? And Conservative councillors in Tameside have been accused of treachery after they did a backroom deal with the Labour Party to lock Reform out of power. I'll be joined by a councillor who quit the Conservative Party over the scandal, who blasts "This stinks." They have written Reform's leaflets for themselves. Vote Conservative, get Labour.
Everyone's been requested for carbonara, so I'm making carbonara.
Carbonara? What's carbonara?
Putting the scran into the van. I'll be joined by the builders from Sheffield who have become internet sensations after knocking up hot dinners in their so-called Scransit van. They're all about walk site safety and are so good they've earned the name Gordon Vans. Are you right, this rubbish? So those lads in a van, they're absolute legends. You know, they're cooking on a hot plate in their van, knocking out food. I've got to say, better than the missus does for me. They're absolute legends. They've got a cooking book out, 600,000 copies. They've sold internet sensations. On a serious point, we were promised cheaper bills continually, clean, green energy, 600,000 jobs, cheaper bills. Well, where are these things? Today we found out our bills are going up and away. Once again, under the Labour Party, is it finally time to admit, stop blaming Donald Trump, Iran, Ukraine, Liz Truss, Brexit, a passing meteorite? Is it net zero that's the real problem? Is it time to drill, baby drill, and make Britain prosperous once again? Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But enough from me. Here's your headlines. It's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 3 minutes past 3. Start with the breaking update today. Resident doctors will strike from the 15th to the 19th of June as part of their long-running dispute with the government over their pay. That's according to the BMA. The unions announced the strike dates and said there could be more to come in July, saying the new Health Secretary, James Murray, had not improved the government's offer. Chair of the Resident Doctors Committee, Dr Jack Fletcher, says they are still vague on new jobs and there is no further money on the table. He said we cannot be asked to negotiate in good faith for weeks, only to be told there is nothing left to negotiate about on pay and no further details at this stage on jobs. More on that breaking story shortly. In other news, household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs driven by the conflict in the Middle East begins to hit bills. Ofgem says a household using a typical amount of gas and electric will pay £221 more a year. The jump will equate to a rise of £18 a month for the average household. The energy cap covers 33 million households in England, Wales and Scotland. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GBNews.
Look at what's happened since Labour came into power. They promised they'd cut bills by £300, and before we even got to the Iran war, bills went up by £200 because of the choices that they've made. And now we've seen the Iran war as having an impact as well. And again, I come back to this point, you have to prioritise cheaper energy. Our view is that you need to make electricity cheap, you need to take off some of these taxes and levies, you need to double down on nuclear, and you need to make sure that whatever you're doing with the energy system, it's prioritised consumers.
Elsewhere, Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister has argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone, he says. He criticised the government for decisions on welfare, stopping the US from using its RAF bases during the attacks on Iran, and urged Labour to do whatever it takes to stop the small boats crisis. Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, Dan Tomlinson, says he disagrees with Mr Blair.
On some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on zero-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that zero-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
Iranian media says Iran has seen the, quote, initial unofficial draft of the deal with the US. According to Iranian state TV, under the framework, Iran would restore commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz to pre-war levels within a month, and the United States would withdraw military forces from Iran's vicinity and lift a naval blockade. The reports come ahead of President Donald Trump meeting with his cabinet this afternoon. More on that breaking story as we get it. Police investigating the cause of a fire at a warehouse in Golders Green have confirmed it is not being treated as suspicious. The London Fire Brigade received 56 reports of a fire on Golders Green Road just before 7 o'clock this morning, which appears to have started behind a kosher supermarket. Following further inquiries alongside the LFB, it's believed to have been caused by an electrical fault. There are no reports of any injuries. A body has been found by rescuers searching for a teenager who went missing while swimming in open water in Cheshire. Meanwhile, police believe a body found in the search for a 12-year-old boy who went missing while swimming in a river in Lancashire is that of a child. He was with his friends when he got into difficulty in the River Ribble yesterday afternoon. In all, 6 people have died in water-related incidents during the heatwave in England. And Russia is relentlessly targeting critical infrastructure and democracy in the UK and across Europe. That's according to the head of the intelligence agency GCHQ. Anne Keast-Butler has used the first of what is set to be an annual threat assessment to reveal that her officers are helping to counter reckless sabotage and assassination attempts by the Kremlin. At the same time, Ms Keast-Butler added that Vladimir Putin is going backwards on the battlefield in Ukraine. It comes as a research group says Russian troops are under growing pressure, with the rate of land they're capturing slowing, and with Ukrainian forces starting to retake more territory than they are losing for the first time since 2023. Those are your latest GB News headlines. A quick look at the finance.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.35 and 1.16 euros. The price of gold is £3,340 and the FTSE 100's at 10,494 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Katie. Now, as you'd expect on the day that prices of your bills went through the roof, Ed Miliband is pressing ahead with his net zero drive, insisting Britain must move faster towards clean, homegrown power, despite households now being hammered with a £221 annual energy bill increase. Cheers, Ed. So with prices going up, is it finally time to admit that net zero is killing Britain? Let's bring in now GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson, here because it's Wednesday's 3 hours of arguing. Beautiful stuff. And also I'm joined by the campaign director at Net Zero Watch, and that's Maurice Cousins. Gentlemen, welcome to you all. Chris, let's start with you. We were promised by Ed Miliband, we were promised by the Labour Party, the path to redemption towards clean, green energy will be paved with cheaper bills. It ain't happening, mate. Bills are going through the roof, and I think people are now starting to see this as just a load of hot air.
Yes, on a hot day. I mean, it is quite hard to take a £220 increase, 13% increase in average bills, up to £1,862. For many, that's the price of a small car, an old car, but a small car. And they're blaming, of course, the surge in oil prices. Brent crude up to $98 a barrel. The surge in oil and gas prices in the Middle East, big concerns there. But it's hard to understand why this government is sticking to its line on not drilling more for oil and gas in the North Sea. Nigel Nelson will explain it shortly, I'm sure he will. But we've been out on the streets of London to ask for people's reaction on the hottest day to see soaring cost of heating.
And do you think the government are doing enough to help vulnerable people?
No. They don't care about us anymore. That's why the way I look at it anyway. They don't care about us.
Probably no, but will other governments, other parties do better? I am really not sure. There's so much uncertainty.
Well, they're trying. I mean, they had a hell of a lot to deal with when they came in. I mean, you can't just deal with one thing at a time. You've got to try and deal with a lot. But I think that this is the right government.
There we have it. So that's what the people are telling us. Now, don't forget, this government's pledge was to cut household bills by £150 per head. We're yet to see it. The cap came down in April because they lifted various green levies from it by £117. But it's hard to really stomach this for so many people worrying about the cost of living crisis. This is going up in July. Wait till the increase has to happen in the autumn when it's cold.
Let's bring you in now, if I could, Maurice Cousins, campaign director at Net Zero Watch. You and I have had this conversation at least 25 times. You've probably had it thousands of times. And it's this, continually, the scapegoats for parliamentarians are situations beyond their control. This time it's the Iran war, Donald Trump. Last time it was Ukraine. There'll always be something to blame. And yet, we are uniquely being punished in the United Kingdom by high gas and particularly electricity prices. This Ofcom, to beg your pardon, this Ofgem price increase today means a 24% increase on gas bills. 24%. That's an eye-watering difference. People will be bracing themselves for a winter of discontent. When do you think it'll be a cold day in hell before this government says, do you know what? We just need to be more energy sovereign. We need to drill, baby, drill.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, you are right to highlight the point that this government, and indeed the previous government, were very fond of conflating proximate causes for problems, so wars and geopolitics, with actually ultimate causes, which is policy, and that has created structurally high energy bills now for a long time. Wars do explain why you see price volatility and some price spikes. However, what that doesn't explain is why bills have been steadily rising now year on year for nearly 2 decades, and why before both Ukraine, where we had some of the highest, but before Iran, we had the highest industrial power prices anywhere in the developed world. And that's because of policy.
Nigel Nelson, people are getting fed up, I think, now of being told, when is this mythical point in the future where we get these 600,000 clean green jobs? When's this mythical point in the future where Ed Miliband's price cuts? What we priced, 200 quid off our bills, 300 quid, who remembers now? It's a distant memory. But we've had £221 a month.
Yes, that's right.
And people are just saying, why are we being punished for zealotry and the ideals of a government?
Well, the whole point is that we are in a perfect storm when it comes down to two serious wars that have impacted the energy supplies. That's unusual. So a lot of that is down to this. When it comes down to where we go with the with net zero, yeah, it is long term. You're not going to get that tomorrow. It will create 800,000 jobs, but it will take some time to do. And if we return to oil, 90% of the North Sea has been bled dry.
Well,
so therefore that means that oil may be a short-term thing if we used emergency powers to open a couple of fields and take the oil from it, but it's not a long-term solution.
But that's the point. I mean, surely we need that emergency drilling now. I mean, the government's target, by the way, is £300 cut in household bills by 2030, not £150. But where's that gone? That green prosperity plan, the Great British Energy idea, how is that helping our viewers?
Maurice Cousins, quickly to you. We hear all the time from the green zealots that the North Sea has been bled dry. My understanding that's simply not true. The North Sea has 2 to 3 billion barrels of oil equivalent left if you develop new sites. Jackdaw alone has been projected to contribute 6.5% of our gas production. That's 1.4 million homes worth. There is a load of black gold and gas under the North Sea, but the punitive taxation policy of our country means it's not viable.
If you speak to industry, they will say to you, it's not geology that is to blame, it is policy. I just would like to pick up on one particular thing, though, is that this isn't unforeseen, the situation that we're in. Gordon Brown's government in 2009 published a very important, excellent energy security review that said that we were entering into a decade of increased energy demand and greater in geopolitical turbulence. And that they said that, but this was coming at a time when the North Sea Basin was entering into a period of decline. But to overcome that, Gordon Brown's government said that we needed to pursue a policy of maximisation of all domestic hydrocarbons. That was a report that was published before we knew about onshore oil and gas, but it was very clear that we should be developing a policy regime which included favourable taxation, regulation and legislation to help the sector overcome barriers for maximum economic recovery. Crucially, the report also made that we need to be also supporting refineries, because that's where ultimately, you and I don't buy barrels of crude. You don't have barrels of crude stored in your cellar at home, or at least I hope not. We rely on things like diesel, petrol, jet fuel. That's the sort of things that we need. And so when that report was published, at that moment we had, I think it was about 10 or 12 major refineries in this country. In the intervening period, we are now down to 4. It is questionable whether those 4 will survive this Parliament under Ed Miliband. So I think it is really important that people understand this is a crisis of our own making. Events happen. That's history. But we should be, in order to not make ourselves exposed, we should be maximising recovery and supporting refineries.
Maurice Cousins, excellence of campaign director at Net Zero Watch. Moving on, talking about the Gordon Brown era. Sir Tony Blair, he's back. Did he ever go away? Today, Sir Tony Blair said Keir Starmer had no plan to fix Britain as he launched an unprecedented and scathing attack on the Labour leader's record thus far in office. In a blistering letter, the former Prime Minister accused Sir Keir Starmer of retreating to the comfort zone of left-wing politics, singling out issues of tax hikes, welfare spending and, of course, as we've just been discussing, net zero. Chris Hope, let's get you back in. Blair's back. Did he ever go away? But by Jove, he's gone extra grime with Sir Keir Starmer.
Well, it really has. This is a 5,000-word essay. By essay, I normally yawn and fall asleep. This is not worth falling asleep on. It's worth reading. It kept Morris awake overnight. It's called The Labour Party's Playing with Fire Over Its Future and the Future of the Country. This should keep Keir Starmer awake if he's got his feet up in his hammock. I'm looking at the Blair idea of a new radical centre. Point 3, I'll read out based on what Morris was saying. We must prioritise prioritise cheaper energy and electrification over net zero and use what's left in our North Sea and gas resources is essential for our competitiveness and for taking advantage. I don't believe what Morris is saying, believe what Tony Blair is saying, and he is aimed an Exocet right at the heart of a Labour project with this. He's making very clear that we've sat back too long. We're in a comfort zone as a party with the leftist driving policy. We need to be more friendly to business. He asks here why the government didn't increase VAT more than they instead tackle the employer side of national insurance, for example. In so many ways, he takes apart, I think, what the Labour government's done. I would challenge any Tory politician not to agree with this analysis.
I read it, and I got to say, you know...
You must agree, Martin. The Daubney must approve of this.
Listen, a lot of people watching this show remember when the Labour Party they can just about remember, they had a lot of sensible ideas, particularly around, you know, industry and sovereignty. Before Tony Blair opened the borders and the Iraq war, there were some good ideas. Nigel Nelson, a lot of people believed, or the supportive media around Keir Starmer would have had us believe he was a bit of a tribute act to Tony Blair. He purged the left of the party, got rid of anti-Semitism, a centrist dad we could all trust. It's actually been exposed, I think, and it's been blistered here by Tony Blair as a lightweight.
Yeah, but you've got to put what Tony Blair's just done in context. I mean, what this is a rebranding of his third-way politics of 30 years ago, which is what created New Labour. And that was cherry-picking the best from the left and the right had to offer. He calls this now, for a modern age, the radical centre. And his argument is, from the centre, you can actually get change. Now, yes, he does have a go at Keir Starmer. And what he's having a go at is the fact that Keir Starmer, and in fact every Prime Minister except Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair himself, never came into power with a foundational set of beliefs that guided what they did.
If I can say also, as a go, he's supportive of Wes Streeting, a huge political talent. Andy Burnham was an outstanding member of my government. Not is anything, but was.
Damning with faint praise.
Damning. So Andy Burnham, who could, of course, replace Keir Starmer if things go his way, he has told The Observer this in the past few seconds, that he, Tony Blair, doesn't mention inequality once. If you don't get how that's driving politics now, if you're not rooting out your analysis in the fact that people are unable to live and things that were taken for granted are no longer affordable, then you're not understanding what's going on. So there's a battle here between the Blairites and also, it seems, with the possible person who could replace Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. But the government has had its say today in the form of Dan Tomlinson. He's a junior Treasury Minister.
I think it is important to listen to what a former Prime Minister has had to say. He's the only Labour Prime Minister in history to win 3 general elections in a row with quite significant majorities, so I'll give it a proper read later. But on some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on zero-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that zero-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
Dan Tomlinson there. Dan's a nice lad, but I tell you what, say it all the time. Where's Ed? Where's Ed Miliband? We'd love to get you in here, Ed, for a chat about your net zero policies. We sincerely would. That invite is always open. Thank you very much to my guests in the studio. Superb. Maurice Cousins, of course, Chris Hope and Nigel Nelson. You're back throughout the rest of the show. Still to come, GB News speaks to Makerfield by-election candidates. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 3:25. You with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, last week we spoke to Andy Burnham during the launch of his Makerfield by-election campaign, and in the interview with GB News' chief political correspondent Catherine Forster, he confirmed he would support the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's policy on immigration if he gets back into national politics. Well, this week, Sophie Reaper has spoken to Michael Winstanley from the Conservative Party and Robert Kenyon from Reform UK, both, of course, standing in Makerfield for their thoughts.
Now, net migration figures came out last week and they showed, some would argue, that Shabana Mahmood's plan is in fact working. If you became the next MP of Makerfield, are you going to support the Home Secretary?
I think we as Conservatives have been really clear of our plan to make sure that we reduce net migration, and what we're actually seeing from the figures last week is the measures that were taken towards the end of the last Conservative government when James Cleverly was in charge to actually reduce those number of people that are eligible to come here as well. So I think we've got a really clear plan to deal with both illegal and legal migration as well, and Kemi has actually gone into quite a lot of detail to how we're going to do that.
From one controversial subject to another, ban on social media for under 16s, do you agree or not?
I think it's certainly something that we need to do now. I think Kemi has rightly been pushing this for quite a long time, and Labour have constantly been opposing it. And once again, late in the day, we've had another U-turn where they seem now to be changing their mind. What we need is clear consistency, and that's what we're getting from the Conservatives rather than the flip-flopping from a Starmer government.
What is the main issue that's been coming up for you on the doorsteps when you've been out canvassing?
I think the main issue that I've been experiencing when I've been talking to people is about the lack of regeneration on our high streets, and we can actually see the work that's going on here in Ashton and Makerfield, which is the money that came from the last Conservative government. We need to reclaim our high streets, and people are really concerned about that, and that is a big issue that has been coming up and people have raised with me as I've been going round.
Well, on that then, what would you do to help regenerate the high streets?
I think as Conservatives we've been really clear about what we want to do. We want to actually reduce business rates, which will hopefully then make it easier for shops and businesses to thrive. We obviously want to cut some of that red tape and regulation as well, and that will help to drive the footfall and generate people back into our high streets. And we've got a number of shops and high streets across the Makerfield constituency, including Hindley, that we really want to make sure people are coming back to and supporting our businesses.
If you had a message to voters here in Makerfield who perhaps are looking for an alternative on the right-hand side, what would your message be?
My message is quite clear. I want to be the Member of Parliament for Makerfield. You know, I was born here, I live here, I was educated here, I represented a ward on the constituency here as well, and, you know, this is my home.
What is the main issue that you've heard from voters so far when you've been knocking on doors canvassing?
I said the biggest issue, the biggest underlying issue is they've been ignored for the past 40 years. We've knocked on doors that haven't had a knock on the door from any political party in the last 40 years. So the underlying reason is just being ignored, basically, taken for granted that they're just going to vote for Labour all this time, and you know that tide's changing now.
And can you promise that if you were to get in as the MP that you would change that the people would no longer feel ignored?
100%. You know, I love speaking to people on the doorsteps, even if they are, you know, if they are voting for Labour or whoever, I'll still listen to them. You know, I've still got a voice, and I'll still represent them. If they do get elected and they do vote for a different party, I'll still be their MP, and I'll still listen to them and represent them as best I can.
Now, last week, I want to ask you, because the net migration figures come out, and a lot of people would argue that that shows that the Home Secretary's plan is working. Would you agree with that? And if so, would you continue to support Shabana Mahmood if you were to become the MP for Makerfield?
I think we had nearly 1,000 people come over illegally in the Channel yesterday. I think that's one of people's biggest concerns. What I would say is the plan on illegal immigration definitely isn't working. She might put into plans to deal with net migration, but I think the biggest problem that people are feeding back to us on the streets is illegal immigration. So that's not working. So that's, you know, that needs to change rapidly, because it puts a massive strain on our infrastructure. It puts a massive strain on our policing, our hospitals. It also puts a lot of us at risk when, you know, you only need to look at a place like Wigan. We've got over 200 HMOs, maybe 300. They're not regulated. We don't exactly know where they are. People who are coming into the country illegally are being put in them HMOs right next in residential areas, and you know there's a potential risk there, potential danger. So I'd say that needs the attention of the attention of the Labour Party and the government ASAP.
That was Sophie Reaper there talking to two candidates from the Makerfield by-election. That's Robert Kenyon from Reform UK, and prior to that it was Michael Winstanley from the Conservative Party. Chris Hope.
Now, other parties also have views on what those two candidates discussed. Let's look at Labour first of all. Their stance on immigration is a controlled, selective and fair points-based system. They want to try and reduce overall net migration. That is working, of course, as we saw those figures last week, while ensuring that sectors like the NHS don't go out without staff. They're looking at an earned settlement for those who come here illegally or maybe are given asylum from 5 to 10 years. That, of course, is controversial for Labour backbenchers. On social media, as the Tory candidate was mentioning there, the Labour government has moved. Last December they were saying how they want children to be able to look at social media because that allows them to not to be excluded from information online. That's changed this week. In fact, I was outside Downing Street for you yesterday, Martin, when we saw what Number 10, the PM, said to families of children who have lost their lives due to social media. He says there's a game changer. We're expecting a big response within weeks, possibly banning children from looking at social media. And just on business rates, as the Tory candidate mentioned there again, Labour is determined to see our high streets thrive. They tell us they've cut rates, they say, for 250,000 businesses, high street shops, cafes and restaurants. They're taking 15% off pubs' new business rates, and also cracking down, they say, on illegal high street activity. Just quickly to the other parties, mainly on immigration. Liberal Democrats, they look for what they call a humanitarian, organised and streamlined streamlined approach to tackling immigration. They want safe and legal routes for those coming here, resettlement schemes set up, and they say they'll fix the asylum system by scrapping the Illegal Migration Act and replacing the inefficient Home Office decision-making system. That also would support the European Convention on Human Rights. The Greens are similar. They are advocates for open and compassionate migration policies. There's an amnesty. They want amnesty and routes to settlement. They oppose what they call a hostile environment established by the government and threatened by the Tories and Reform UK. They would abolish detention and replace the Home Office, they say, and its immigration functions with a Department of Migration, which could be easier on migration. And very finally, Rupert Lowe's party, Restore Britain, they would advocate the immediate mass deportation of all illegal migrants, complete gear change from the other two parties there, proposing the removal of millions over a 3-year period. Their primary goal is to achieve negative net migration, they say, by drastically cutting back on legal and illegal entries. They're looking at a two-pronged approach of forced removals and a highly hostile environment. Again, Greens and Lib Dems would do the opposite of that, and what they call austere detention centres. So there's a flavour of where all the parties are, broadly on immigration, but looking also at the government more closely on business rates, immigration and social media.
Thank you, Chris Hope. An excellent summary there of all the parties in the battlefield. Now, the Makerfield by-election, of course, will take place on the 18th of June, following the resignation of the Labour Party MP Josh Simons. And the candidates announced thus far are as follows. Andy Burnham from the Labour Party, Alan Howlin Loud Hope from the official Monster Raving Loony Party, Roberts Kenyon, Reform UK, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party, Jake Austin from the Liberal Democrats. We also have Dan Clark from the Libertarian Party, Peter Mark Ward, the Rejoin EU Party, Sarah Wakefield from the Green Party, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Robert Pownell, Independent, Protect the Wild, John Alfred Dyer, Independent, Paul Richard Gold, and that's Independent, and Count Binface from the Count Binface Party. Still to come before 4 o'clock, Reform councillors demand Birmingham Council only speaks English after an Islamic prayer was read aloud in Arabic at the ceremony. We'll be debating it next. Is it time to only have English in British politics? But first, here's your latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Good afternoon. The headlines at 3:35. We start with a breaking update. Resident doctors will strike from the 15th to the 19th of June as part of their long-running dispute with the government over pay. The BMA announced the strike dates and said that there could be more to come in July, saying the new Health Secretary, James Murray, had not improved the government's offer. Elsewhere, household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hits bills. Ofgem says a household using a typical amount of gas and electric will pay £221 more a year. Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone. And Iranian media are reporting today that Iran has seen the, quote, initial unofficial draft of the deal with the US. According to Iranian state TV, under the framework, Iran would restore commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz to pre-war levels within a month, and the United States would withdraw military forces from Iran's vicinity and lift the naval blockade. Those are your latest headlines. More from me at 4 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A hot rest of the day to come for western areas. That could allow some thunderstorms to develop through the latter part of this afternoon and into the evening. Meanwhile, across the east, it's a cooler day. We've got high pressure dominating across eastern areas, bringing in more of an easterly wind through today. So a bit more cloud across the east coast, but across the west, we've had some very strong sunshine. Through this evening, there's a risk of thunderstorms with frequent lightning, large hail and thunder too. I don't think everyone's going to see them, but where you do see them, could see some impacts, so do keep an eye out. Elsewhere though, it should be a relatively dry night. Another warm one to come, particularly across the south and across parts of the northwest into tomorrow morning. But Thursday brings plenty more sunny and dry weather, particularly across the east where it's been a little bit cloudier today. So a fine start to the day across western Scotland, a particularly hot day to come for these areas on Thursday. Another warm day as well for Northern Ireland, so a warm start with temperatures already in the teens to start the day. Plenty of sunshine across many central areas of the UK, but across the far west there is a bit more cloud into tomorrow morning. It's quite low cloud, so it will bring some mist and murk across many coastal areas, particularly parts of Cornwall, southwestern parts of Wales, for example. Across the east, though, it's going to be a much brighter day than today, and as a result, temperatures will climb higher than they have done today. There's still a bit of an onshore breeze across the very far coast, but just anywhere inland, temperatures climbing back into the 20s, if not the 30s. Highs of 33 degrees are expected across the London area through Thursday. Elsewhere, another very hot one. A mild night to come into Friday morning, but then there's a change into breezy conditions, particularly across the northwest, with an increased risk of rain, but it does remain warm in the southeast until Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A75 southbound near Bloomfield roundabout, a broken down vehicle restricts traffic. The A5 remains closed at Menai Bridge with diversions. The M5 northbound between junctions 6 and 4A in Worcestershire faces 1 hour delays due to congestion, while the M5 southbound between junctions 16 and 17 in South Gloucestershire has 1 lane closed due to a breakdown. In Hampshire, expect 15-minute delays on the A34 southbound between the A272 and M3 junction due to congestion. And on the trains, major disruption affects Greater Anglia and the Stansted Express at Cheshunt. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 4. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News on this beautiful afternoon. Now, Reform Party councillors have called for Birmingham Council to use only English after an imam read an Islamic prayer in Arabic during a mayoral ceremony.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
Yes, in a letter to the Lord Mayor, Reform members said that while Birmingham is a diverse city, the council must remain accessible to all by using the national language only. So here's today's debate. Should we only allow English to be spoken in political meetings? Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by the Green Party activist Ashok Kumar. Ashok, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. I'm assuming you think this is divisive nonsense from Reform.
Well, look, all Reform have is a hammer and everything looks like a nail. And this is just like virtue signaling. You know, imagine inheriting one of the most financially broken councils in Europe, with the second most deprived local authority in England, with 62% of children classified as deprived. And your first major intervention is a complaint about a 30-second translated prayer. So like Latin is used in courts, mottos, universities, ceremonies all over Britain. Should we ban them? The monarchy literally uses French and Latin traditions. Would Reform call for a ban on them? Britain has Welsh, Gaelic, Cornish. Should those be banned as well? Parliament and councils across the country have Hebrew prayers, Sikh prayers, Sanskrit prayers. Are they calling for a ban on them as well? No. It's just one short Quranic reading translated into English. It is now some kind of national emergency. It's a joke. Almost every council that Reform has had power in, they've imposed Labour, Tory, austerity and regressive taxes on steroids, but they want to convince you that your life will somehow improve by targeting a 30-second prayer on Eid, which was translated to a population, there's 4 million Muslims in this country, and they want to actively have a kind of politics that pits people against each other.
But there are many, many millions of people who aren't Muslim. And I guess they would say that there's a perception, and you may well disagree, Ashok, there's a perception when we saw, for example, the public prayer, the Islamic prayer at Trafalgar Square, people felt that this was something different, it was something new, it was something shocking to a lot of people. And it's a very rapid cultural change in a country that hasn't changed a great deal in many, many centuries, and people feel uncomfortable when they see this kind of thing. Now, you may well disagree, but if a culture is worth protecting, it's worth discussing. And people do see things like this as, they might see it as a sectarian, divisive type of politics. No doubt you'll say it's inclusive and all-embracing, but they don't see it that way, and they have a point, don't they?
Look, I think that over 70% of the country didn't support reform. Reform peaked in 2025 and they lost 5 points by 2026. They're doubling down on the same kinds of politics. We've had 4 decades of Tory and Labour austerity, and they're trying to just, people are crying out for a party. They're crying out for something else. There's poverty across the country. There's 1 in 4 adults have less than £100 in their pocket in Britain, and they look to reform, and reform saying, no, let's blame this minor virtue signaling thing. Let's blame this culture. Let's blame a statistically insignificant proportion of the population that come here by boats. That's not going to change anyone's life. And we're seeing time and time again, when they have positions of power and authority, they're doing the same kind of woke right politics. That's what this is. They're acting like snowflakes. We have prayers in all. We've always had. It's nothing new.
Ashok, I've been doing a long listening. You need to listen now.
Go ahead.
Thank you. A lot of people would say, people like yourself from the Green Party, of course you're OK with this. Your party advocates for open borders. You don't want there to be border control. This is the party policy. A world without borders is literally in the Green Party's manifesto. And a lot of people don't want to vote for that. So you can't just say that nobody cares about what reforms say, because how many people in this country would vote for open borders? I would say a tiny, tiny amount. And yet that's your party's policy.
Well, look, we gained 8 points since 2025. Our party is ascendant. We just came second to reform. So you can say a small proportion here, a big proportion there. The difference between reform and Labour is less than 9 points in the country. That's 9% of the population. So you can try to marginalize our politics. We don't have open borders. We don't want a cruel system of immigration. That's very different from open borders. The fact is that this country is a mess, and people are going to the left and they're going to the right.
If we had open borders, I think most people agree with that. Most people in the country, well over 3/4, want to reduce immigration. You're in a minority on that point, Ashok.
Yeah, look, there are different points in which the majority of the country want to renationalize water, energy, and transport. And 80% in some polls. We're the only party that supports that. Why don't you focus on that? That's the reason why we're winning council after council that were historically traditional Labour strongholds.
You're polling at least only half of what reform you care. But look, I didn't expect it to turn into a party political broadcast. I thought we'd have a conversation about the use of the Muslim call to prayer. Ashok Kumar, thank you very much indeed. Quickly from you, if I could, Nigel Nelson. Do you think people are very, very put out by what they saw here? And you might agree with Ashok Kumar, but people see change happening quickly and it concerns them.
I just think it's silly. I mean, this is a prayer. Now, quite clearly, if it was a council meeting, you expect the council meeting to be held in English so everyone can understand it. The idea of a quick prayer in Arabic, I can see absolutely no problem with. It's no different from the Latin Mass in the Roman Catholic Church. Our friend Jacob Rees-Mogg is a great fan of that.
I think it is different.
Well, why is it different? This doesn't have any effect on the proceedings of the council.
Because how many hardline Catholic political parties are there advocating for hardline, socially conservative Catholic policies? I'll tell you how many. Zero.
No, you're right.
Precisely zero.
We're talking about how language is used. So nobody bats an eyelid at hearing Latin. Why should they bat an eyelid at a prayer that's 30 seconds long, happening just before a meeting? Provided the meeting is held in English, the actual proceedings are held in English, so people understand it. That's fine.
Well, it might start with the prayer, and who knows where it ends. But we're debating this throughout the rest of the show. Nigel Nelson, thank you very much. And also, thank you to Ashok Kumar from the Green Party for coming on. Always a pleasure to have diverse opinions on this channel. And don't go anywhere, because coming up, new analysis shows that almost 125,000 young jobless Brits have been on universal credit their entire adult lives. Is there much point in working anymore, or are they just work-shy snowflakes? First, though, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The temperatures may start to fall across the UK over the coming days, but it remains hot across central and western parts of Europe. Here, a heat wave continues. Sunny spells across the Canary Islands, temperatures approaching 30 Celsius, the mid-30s for parts of Spain and Portugal, cooler around the coast. That will lead to the risk of some thunderstorms on Thursday across parts of Italy, perhaps Greece as well, and temperatures here above average. And it remains on the hot and sunny side as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Scotland has 790 offshore islands, with 103,000 islanders populating around 100 of them. For the people that live and work there, ferries are a lifeline. Businesses need to transport stock, attractions rely on tourists, and islanders board for the everyday necessities found only on the mainland. But island communities grow increasingly frustrated at frequent cancellations and unscheduled maintenance, pushing the Caledonian McBrain fleet to its limit. As election campaigning got underway, CalMac announced a third of its fleet was out of action.
We're off to Arran just to see how much these maintenance woes impact islander lives.
Alistair Dobson runs Arran Ice Cream. A fourth-generation dairy business recently awarded the Golden Scoop Award.
If the ferry doesn't run, everything stops. All the other islands will say they've got a big tourism industry. Arran surpasses them all. You're then pitching tourists against locals, against commerce, because everybody's trying to get the same ferry space.
When 2 Arran ferries were delivered 7 years late and £350 million over budget, just for them to enter into a never-ending cycle of repairs, well, frustration swelled into fury. Election party solutions come in all shapes and sizes. The SNP pledges a £10 million resilience fund and will give local islanders board representation at CalMac. Lib Dems want to initiate a 30-year procurement plan, while the Tories would consider procuring vessels from elsewhere. Reform has pledged a 10-year renewal plan, while Labour seeks to merge CalMac and CMAL into a new publicly owned agency. And the Greens seek to extend public ownership to more ferries, ending the tendering system.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now, a shocking new report published today has found that over 100,000 young people are stuck on benefits. That's roughly equivalent to a town the size of Lincoln. Well, we're joined now by the university student, Justin Bond. Justin, welcome to the show. I appreciate your company. Do you know what? I say it often, and I say it with honesty. I think it's really, really tough for young people now, especially when you graduate from university, you've got a ton of debt, and the job opportunities just don't seem to be there, do they, mate?
No, I agree. And I think one of the main problems that we have now is that university just doesn't seem like enough, and we are kind of forced at this very young age to make this decision, which, you know, is £30,000, £35,000 worth of debt ultimately. And what I'm seeing and what I've noticed with a lot of kind of people my age is that we're just thinking, what was the point? Because personally, I've applied for, you know, several jobs now, and I went to UCL. And I'm about to graduate, hopefully with a first, and it just doesn't seem like enough. And I'm going to do, hopefully, a journalism certificate in September and go that way. But yeah, and I suppose the question is, why has this happened? And a lot of it, I guess, is COVID, and a lot of it is, there's not enough money to go around. 2 or 3 jobs have become one, I guess. Also, we can't kind of rule out the increase in competition. People coming from abroad, international visas, and frankly, a lot of people willing to work for less money than maybe Brits are. And another thing that is very disheartening is, you do all this uni, and then entry-level jobs are like 26,000 or 28,000 a year. And I'm pretty sure that's basically the same as it was 15 or even 20 years ago. So
that is exactly the case. I can totally vouch for that. I can tell you vouch for that. Justin, I'll tell you what we're going to do, mate. I'm going to help you out. Why don't you come in and do some work experience for me here? I've been in this trade 30 years. I think I could teach you quite a lot. Do you want to get in here, lad?
That would be really great.
Let's make something happen positive out of this, because I really appreciate you coming on and having the guts to admit that the world is tough, because it is tough. And you're not moaning about it, you're not whinging about it, you're not crying about it, you want to do something about it. We're going to get you in here and we're going to help you out. How does that make you feel, mate?
That's great. Thank you very much.
My son is 17. I'm getting emotional. It was his birthday yesterday. I see a lot of him in you. We're going to do something to help you out, mate. All right? How's that grab you?
Much. I appreciate it.
Justin, you're a good lad. Keep going. Let's speak soon. We'll get my team to reach out to you and we'll get you in, OK? Let's go for a pint. Thank you, Justin. Cheers. Still to come, energy bills will surge by more than £200 a year for millions as Ed Miliband doubles down on net zero. This is GB News, Britain's News Channel. First, though, here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A hot rest of the day to come for western areas. That could allow some thunderstorms to develop through the latter part of this afternoon and into the evening. Meanwhile, across the east, it's a cooler day. We've got high pressure dominating across eastern areas, bringing in more of an easterly wind through today. So a bit more cloud across the east coast, but across the west, we've had some very strong sunshine. Through this evening, there's a risk of thunderstorms with frequent lightning, large hail and thunder too. I don't think everyone's going to see them, but where you do see them, could see some impacts, so do keep an eye out. Elsewhere though, it should be a relatively dry night. Another warm one to come, particularly across the south and across parts of the northwest into tomorrow morning. But Thursday brings plenty more sunny and dry weather, particularly across the east where it's been a little bit cloudier today. So a fine start to the day across western Scotland, a particularly hot day to come for these areas on Thursday. Another warm day as well for Northern Ireland, so a warm start with temperatures already in the teens to start the day. Plenty of sunshine across many central areas of the UK, but across the far west there is a bit more cloud into tomorrow morning. It's quite low cloud, so it will bring some mist and murk across many coastal areas, particularly parts of Cornwall, southwestern parts of Wales, for example. Across the east though, it's going to be a much brighter day than today, and as a result temperatures will climb higher than they have done today. There's still a bit of an onshore breeze across the very far coast, but just anywhere inland, temperatures climbing back into the 20s, if not the 30s. Highs of 33 degrees are expected across the London area through Thursday. Elsewhere, another very hot one. A mild night to come into Friday morning, but then there's a change into breezy conditions, particularly across the northwest, with an increased risk of rain, but it does remain warm in the southeast until Sunday. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. In Wakefield, the M1 northbound faces delays between junctions 40 and 41 due to roadworks with 3 lanes closed. The M1 southbound in Nottinghamshire is affected between junctions 26 and 25. In Warrington, the M62 westbound exit slip at junction 9 has emergency roadworks with 1 lane shut. The M42 northbound has 2 lanes closed between junctions 5A and 6. In Buckinghamshire, the M40 southbound exit slip at junction 5 is completely closed for repairs. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
£76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash could be yours this summer. That's totally tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. And remember, because it's totally tax-free cash, you'll get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good afternoon to you on this beautiful afternoon. It's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6 p.m. A cracking show awaits. Here's what's on today's menu. Top story today, energy bills will surge once again, this time by more than £200 a year for millions of Brits as Ofgem increases the price gap once again.
My electric last month was £160 monthly, and that's just electric on its own. They don't care about us anymore. That's why the way I look at it anyway. They don't care about us.
Yes, as British pensioners continue to feel the pinch, Ed Miliband's solution, of course, is to keep pushing ahead with his net zero agenda. Ed Miliband, once again, is still howling in the wind.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Every time I hear that, it hurts more. Here's the question today. When will the Labour Party finally admit net zero is bankrupt in Britain? Another top story tonight, Blair's back. Did he ever go away? Sir Tony Blair has launched a scathing attack on Sir Keir Starmer, saying he has no plan to fix Britain, as he warns against retreating to the so-called comfort zone of left-wing politics. And a spat between Reform UK's Zia Youssef and Robert Jenrick over deporting foreigners who live in social housing has sparked a national debate, with roughly half of all social housing in London, in Birmingham and in Leicester given over to immigrant heads of households. Is it time to kick them out of their houses and perhaps even kick them out of the country? Now, Conservative councillors in Tameside have been accused of treachery after they did a backroom deal with the Labour Party to lock Reform out of power. I'll be joined by a former Tory councillor who quit his party over the scandal, and he blasts, "This stinks. They've written Reform's leaflets for themselves." The answer is vote Conservative, get Labour.
Everyone's been requested for carbonara, so I'm making carbonara.
Carbonara, watching carbonara. On today's show, magnificent. I'll be joined by builders from Sheffield. They become internet sensations after knocking up hot dinners in their Scransit van. Look at them, knocking out food in the front of their white van. They're all about walk site safety, and they're so good, they've earned the nickname Gordon Vanzy. Who writes this rubbish? Well, the show's a pleasure to have your company. Blair's back. Did he ever go away? A lot of people felt he's the one who's been pulling the strings all along. But do you remember a time where Sir Keir Starmer was put forward as a new Tony Blair, a centrist, a sensible politician who would purge the left, get rid of anti-Semitism and put us back on the path to victory? Well, less than 2 years in, it's been exposed that Sir Keir Starmer is no Tony Blair. And the party is about to lurch back to the left under a leadership challenge, potentially. Is Tony Blair right? Is Keir Starmer a political lightweight? Is his time up? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 4:03. Resident doctors will strike from the 15th to the 19th of June as part of their long-running dispute with the government over pay, as according to the BMA. The union announced the strike dates and said there could be more to come in July, saying the new Health Secretary, James Murray, had not improved the government's offer. Chair of the Resident Doctors Committee, Dr Jack Fletcher, says they are still vague on new jobs and there is no further money on the table. He said, "We cannot be asked to negotiate in good faith for weeks, only to be told there is nothing left to negotiate about on pay and no further details of jobs at this stage." In other news, household energy prices will rise by 13% a year in July as soaring wholesale costs driven by the conflict in the Middle East begin to hit bills. Ofgem says a household using a typical amount of gas and electric will pay £221 more a year. The jump will equate to a rise of £18 a month for the average household. The energy cap covers 33 million households in England, Wales and Scotland. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho spoke to GB News.
If you look at what's happened since Labour came into power, they promised they'd cut bills by £300, and before we even got to the Iran war, bills went up by £200 because of the choices that they've made. And now we've seen the Iran war as having an impact as well. And again, I come back to this point, you have to prioritise cheaper energy. Our view is that you need to make electricity cheap, you need to take off some of these taxes and levies, you need to double down on nuclear, and you need to make sure that whatever you're doing with the energy system, it's prioritising consumers.
In other news, Sir Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister has argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone. He criticised the government for decisions on welfare, stopping the US from using its RAF bases during the attacks on Iran, and urged Labour to do whatever it takes to stop the small boats crisis. Andy Burnham has hit back at Mr Blair's comments, saying he does not understand what's going on in people's lives, accusing the former Prime Minister of ignoring inequality. Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, Dan Tomlinson, says he also disagrees with Mr Blair.
On some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on zero-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that zero-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
To the Middle East, Iranian media is reporting today that Iran has seen a, quote, initial unofficial draft of the deal with the US. According to Iranian state TV, under the framework, Iran would restore commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz to pre-war levels within a month, and the United States would withdraw military forces from Iran's vicinity and lift a naval blockade. The White House says the reports are false. President Donald Trump is meeting with his cabinet this afternoon. More on that breaking story as we get it. Police investigating the cause of a fire at a warehouse in Golders Green have confirmed it is not being treated as suspicious. The London Fire Brigade received 56 reports of a fire on Golders Green Road just before 7 o'clock this morning, which appears to have started behind a kosher supermarket. Following further inquiries, it's believed to have been caused by an electrical fault, and there are no reports of any injuries. 7 teenagers have died in water-related incidents in the UK over the heat wave. Earlier, a body was found by rescuers searching for a teenager who went missing while swimming in open water in Cheshire. It's the 9th known such incident in the UK and Ireland during the recent heat wave, which has seen record-breaking temperatures for this time of year. And Russia is relentlessly targeting critical infrastructure and democracy in the UK and across Europe, the head of the intelligence agency GCHQ has warned today. Anne Keast-Butler has used the first of what is set to be an annual threat assessment to reveal that her officers are helping to counter reckless sabotage and assassination attempts by the Kremlin. At the same time, Ms Keast-Butler added that Vladimir Putin is going backwards on the battlefield in Ukraine. It comes as a research group says Russian troops are under growing pressure, with the rate of land they're capturing slowing, and with Ukrainian forces starting to retake more territory than they are losing for the first time since 2023. As are your latest GB News headlines, a quick look at the markets.
Taking the ups and downs in our stride. Stilts Home Lifts sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
The pound will buy you $1.34 and €1.15. The price of gold is £3,305 and the FTSE 100 is at 10,475 points.
GB News Finance Report, brought to you by Stilts Home Lifts.
Thank you, Katie. Now, no surprise here. Ed Miliband is once again pressing ahead with his net zero drive, today insisting Britain must move faster towards clean, homegrown power, despite, of course, today, the bitter news for British households. They've been hammered today with a £221 annual energy bill increase, thanks to our friends at Ofgem. Here's the question. With prices going up, is it finally time to admit that net zero is bankrupting Britain? Let's bring in GB News' political editor Christopher Hope and GB News' senior political commentator. It's Wednesday, 2 hours left of arguing. It's Nigel Nelson. Gentlemen, welcome very much. Chris, let's start with you. We were told by this Labour government £300 would be the reduction in our energy bills, and we were told time and time again that the pathway to redemption would be paved with cheaper energy bills. It not only hasn't happened, the bills are going through the roof. The Labour Party are talking hot air.
It's hard to believe. It is so hot outside. To say that the energy bills go up by £220 from July, a 13% hike, that's, by my count, at least double inflation, if not nearly triple inflation, up to £1,862 a year for the average home. They blame the government, of course, allowing this to happen, a surge in oil and gas prices as a result of the Middle Eastern crisis. Brent crude is at $98 a barrel, but it puts further pressure on why this government won't do more to drill in the North Sea. Concerning, the government is planning to cut household bills by £300 by 2030. But these are for the birds, given you've got this big increase in July. But let's see what people we spoke to in London today thought about this big increase.
And do you think the government are doing enough to help vulnerable people?
No. They don't care about us anymore. That's why the way I look at it anyway. They don't care about us.
Probably no, but will other governments, other parties do better? I am really not sure. There's so much uncertainty.
Well, they're trying. I mean, they had a hell of a lot to deal with when they came in. I mean, you can't just deal with one thing at a time. You've got to try and deal with a lot. But I think that this is the right government.
Well, pretty balanced view there from the country, but people aren't really thinking about heating their homes when it's so hot outside. This will really impact because another increase could well come in the autumn, and that could be higher as it gets colder and colder. Of course, we're also expecting inflation to go up because we have still got the problem with tankers not going through the Straits of Hormuz. I should say that the fuel cap came down in April largely because the government removed green levies, fell by £117. So, being cynical, they may have known it would be warm in May, not this warm, but warm in May, so they can get away with an increase in bills when it's warmer. And that's maybe the cynical politics at play here. But we are told this government will cut household bills by £300 ahead by 2030. well, looking at these numbers, we're way above that already in year 2 of a Labour government.
OK, thank you very much, Chris. Stick with us because, of course, Tony Blair's back. Did he ever go away? That's coming next. I want to get my next guest in now, somebody I greatly admire, regular on the show. That's a senior lecturer in sustainable construction and climate change, John Grant. John, welcome to the show. I honestly really enjoy chatting to you. I know we disagree on fossil fuels, but would you agree with me that we were promised cheaper bills? That's something that obviously everybody wants. It hasn't happened. In fact, the opposite is happening. And so people have every right to think, well, you know, I agree with the principle of clean energy. I just don't like the price of it.
Well, what we're talking about is not the price of green energy. What we're talking about, of course, is an affected price when we've got our energy prices pegged at fossil fuels, like natural gas. What we need to do is to disconnect so we can take full advantage of the electricity being produced by renewables, which are significantly cheaper. And that's just the way it is. But while we're fixating about short-termism in this, we really need to invest in the future. Now, there's a really good part to this in that it seems very often when you talk about energy and everything that everyone assumes there's a fixed amount of energy that people need to use. And of course, we do need to use energy. I'm not saying you could step away from it, of course not. But we can reduce the amount of energy. And one of I'm not a spokesman for the Labour Party. You know, one of the things that's really letting us down here is that we're not fixing our old houses to both be warmer and actually cooler in these extreme temperatures that we're experiencing at the moment, that we can fix our existing homes to use less energy, significantly less than the 12-13% extra money that we're going to ask of them.
But the thing about all that, John, it's time consuming and it's expensive.
It is.
People can't. If people can barely afford to pay their gas bills, and thank the gods, you know, this is coming in a heat wave in May, but you know, come the autumn, come the winter, when this really starts to hammer in, people won't have the money for that kind of insulation that you're asking for there. But it asks the question once again: why is it that if this increase 24% is on gas? And like it or lump it, you know, we are still dependent on gas, particularly industry. We can't run cement factories by wind turbines. We can't store the energy from wind turbines. We can't store the energy from solar power. So we do still need fossil fuels. Is it not just common sense to use our own resources rather than paying for it to be offshore our guilds, and then importing it halfway around the world with the carbon footprint that entails?
Well, there is a small extra carbon footprint of importing it. That's true. Actually, weirdly, gas imported from Denmark has a slightly lower carbon footprint than gas from the North Sea, which is a bit weird, but there we are. So there is an import element to that. But really, what this comes down to is that for £1 spent now, will save £5 for what we are facing in the future. We have to think about the future. We just experienced a 2-degree higher hit during this warm weather. What if this had come in June or July or August? And actually, I don't know if it won't come in then. We have to prepare for the future, and this idea, and we really need to help those people who can't afford it. The people watching your show now, absolutely. We need to massively support them. There are billions in the pipeline to help them insulate, and we need to do it properly. Because there was that awful, wasn't there, that 90% failure or whatever that we invested in insulation. And, mate, I get why people are angry. Oh, my goodness. You know, I'm angry. But we need to help them by using less energy, not by burning more fossil fuels, which is just going to make everything worse. Sorry.
All right, John, on that we can disagree. But look, if we could bottle your energy, we could power half of London. Thank you very much, John Grant. It's always a pleasure. It really is. Thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate your time. Now, let's just remind ourselves of the Prime Minister's continuous support for net zero measures.
Net zero by 2040 across England and Wales is tough, but it's right.
So the UK is doubling down on the fight against climate change. As an investment in future generations, yes, of course. But also crucially, as an investment in improving the lives of working people here and now.
New solar projects, new offshore wind projects, the onshore ban lifted, Great British Energy launched.
Well, there we go. Again, if we could bottle John Grant's energy, we'd have half a chance. If we could bottle the hot air coming from politicians, we'd have half a chance. Seriously. Let's get back to you, Chris Hope, because, of course, Tony Blair's back in the news today, and he's steaming in to Sir Keir Starmer, saying the man's got no plan.
Well, that's right, Martin. I mean, it's worth saying. He suggests what the government needs is some form of radical centre to AI, talking about a transformative programme for planning reform and deregulation, but also, crucially, point 3, we must prioritise, Martin, cheaper energy and electrification over net zero, and use what is left of our North Sea oil and gas resources, essential, he says, for our competitiveness and for taking advantage of AI.
OK, we're going to do more on Tony Blair after the break, because I've got some breaking news now to give to you here at GB News, and it's this. A woman who was fatally shot outside a bar in Sheffield on Monday has now been named as a 30-year-old mother of one, Shanice Brooks. South Yorkshire police have said. The first picture on your screens there. Shanice Brooks was shot shortly before 2:45 a.m, according to detectives, who said she was simply an innocent bystander. And she's been described as an amazing mum who would light up every room she walked into. Just to repeat that breaking news, tragic breaking news for us there. What a beautiful picture, look. Breaking news, a woman who was fatally shot outside a bar in Sheffield on Monday has now been named as 30-year-old mother of one, Shanice Brooks. South Yorkshire police have said. The first picture there of Shanice Brooks on the screen. Whole life ahead of her. Shanice Brooks was shot shortly before 2:45 a.m, according to detectives, who said she was simply an innocent bystander. She's been described as an amazing mum who would light up every room she walked into. And, you know, sending all of our love to Shanice Brooks's children, who now no longer have a mum. Still to come. Former Labour Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair, as we've been saying, slams Sir Keir Starmer as having no coherent plan for Britain. This is next. GB News, Labour at war.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time.
But I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. Time is 4:22. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Sir Tony Blair has said that Sir Keir Starmer has no plan to fix Britain as he launched an unprecedented and blistering attack on the current Labour leader's record in office. In a blistering letter, the former Prime Minister accused Sir Keir Starmer of retreating to the comfort zone of left-wing politics, singling out issues of tax hikes, of welfare spending and, of course, our old friend net zero. Well, let's bring in now GB News' political editor Chris Hope and GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Chris, before the break, we had a quick nibble on the return of Tony Blair steaming into Sir Keir Starmer, absolutely giving him both barrels.
Both barrels in more than 5,000 words of that. That's a Gatling gun of words fired at the heart of this government, Martin. He says here parties have an almost infinite capacity for self-delusion, no coherent plan, sitting in a left-wing comfort zone, intellectual wasteland, apparently in the Labour Party, caused by the wasted years of the Corbyn years. Absolutely extraordinary here, and he's making quite clear there's no coherent plan for government, he says, in a fast-changing world. We are in the wrong position from which we can devise one and win a second term. He's giving up on a 160-seat majority in House of Commons in this article unless things change. He says the Starmer government is governing from a essentially Labour soft left, as I said, put firmly in the comfort zone. It's headlined, the Labour Party is playing with fire over its future and the future of the country. And that gives an indication of the political timing. There's no PMQ today. Wednesday is the big political day of the week. What happens? This happens. Tony Blair literally firing his exocet into the heart of government. Looking at the leadership, though, he knows that Keir Starmer will probably face some form of battle this year to stay on as Prime Minister and Labour leader. He says Wes Streeting is a huge political talent, but Andy Burnham was an outstanding member of my government. I added the word but. He said and, but even so, that's called throwing shade very, very elegantly on the two future leaders, possibly of the Labour Party.
It's interesting, Chris, we talk a lot, don't we, about the perception that Keir Starmer can be distant, robotic. He sounds, you know, like a Dalek. Quite, people say that. And Tony Blair today has said the principal problem isn't Keir's personality or a failure to communicate our achievements or a need to assert more strongly Labour's values. It's because we don't have a worked-out, coherent plan for the country in a fast-changing world and are in the wrong political position on which can devise one and win a second term. What he's basically saying is what you said for months and months and months. This Labour Party doesn't have a story.
No.
People don't know what it stands for.
No, and extraordinary, 14 years of trying to write one. They failed to, and they came in, and now we're nearly 2 years in and facing a change of leader. Dan Tomlinson, who's the junior Treasury Minister, he has set the government side on this. They take issue with elements of it, but not all of it.
I think it is important to listen to what a former Prime Minister has had to say. He's the only Labour Prime Minister in history to win 3 general elections in a row with quite significant majorities, so I'll give it a proper read later. But on some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on zero-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that zero-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
Dan Tomlinson there having a go, but not really convincing, I would say, arguing for the government. In fact, the government's response to this isn't also very clear. They merely go through what they think they have done on cutting waiting lists, cutting serious violent crime, net migration down, but not much more than that. Andy Burnham has replied in the past hour in The Observer. He says that Tony Blair doesn't mention inequality once if you don't get how that's driving our politics now, he says, if you're not really rooting your analysis in that fact that people are unable to live and get things they were taken for granted that are no longer affordable, then you're not understanding what's going on. He thinks Tony Blair is out of touch, Martin.
Just point out there, Dan Tomlinson, who's a lovely fella. He was 4 when Tony Blair came into power.
Yes.
And haven't things changed? Look, a lot of people watching the show, Nigel Nelson, will remember Tony Blair at the beginning, that optimistic time of overthrowing a long period of Conservative rule. But the country had money then. It had a plan. It had vision. And it had coherence. It had a political unit behind their man. Labour Party now is in total disarray. And more than that, we're about to go through a leadership campaign by the looks of it that could see the party almost lurching back towards Corbynism.
Yeah, well, I don't think Corbynism is on the cards. Whoever wins,
back to the left of what anybody voted for.
I mean, what Tony Blair is talking about is that the left is the Labour Party's comfort zone, and it shouldn't actually go there. He's equally scathing about the right. He doesn't think that the Labour Party or any other party should go to the right because the answers aren't there either. He talks about the radical centre. So it is in the centre where change will actually happen. This is very much Tony Blair reliving what he did 30 years ago. I mean, this is that radical centre is only another term for third way, cherry-picking the best policies from left and right. All he's done is say is to bring it into a new world where there's a G3 of China, America, India, and we've got AI.
Chris, a lot of people might think, why are you poking your beak in? You started the Iraq War, the illegal Iraq War. You threw open our borders to the rest of Europe. The real change in immigration began under Tony Blair. What does this guy know?
Well, yeah, unlike Dan Thompson, I remember vividly when all that happened. I mean, on the A8 countries, Eastern European countries, and the A2 countries added to that, Bulgaria, Romania, meant to be tens of thousands of people coming there from there to the UK. It was millions. And that was a big issue, and that led, I think, to the growth of UKIP in the late part of that decade.
Look at the crime,
and then
look at the crime and deportation data published just yesterday. Lithuania, countries that Tony Blair threw our borders open to. Decades later, the shocks still being fact. So why is he poking his nose in there?
And to a degree, that's what Andy Burnham's saying. He's saying that, it's inequality. You're not walking the streets I'm walking, Tony, is what he's kind of saying, I think. He says that also in the same article that Mr. Blair, Sir Tony Blair, criticising a phrase of 40 years of neoliberalism, but the last 40 years have given us inequality, and that's what's responsible for the abandonment of the centre. Arguably, bringing more people to do work, some Brits losing their jobs, has made us all poorer, and that's why you see GDP per head going down, and maybe that's what Andy Burnham's talking about.
One thing that Tony Blair does mention, though, that a lot of people watching the show will agree with Nigel Nelson, is the addiction to giving money away in terms of benefits and refusing to make cuts. We are living beyond our means, and we're in giveaway mode. We're in taxation mode, we're in giveaway mode. That's the doom cycle of this economic ground under the Labour Party. Perhaps Blair's got a point.
I think he has got a point about welfare benefits, and there's a point that is being addressed. You've got the Sir Stephen Timms review looking at disability benefits. So rather than Rachel Reeves simply slashing them, he's finding out which ones should go and which ones should stay. Tomorrow we've got Alan Milburn's report on the million under 25s who are unemployed. That will have some recommendations there, and the recommendations will cut the benefits bill.
That's the problem that we've got now, though, is it not? It is of a Labour Party that's so fractured and divided. They can't agree on anything. And you and I will remember the Brexit years, where the Conservatives just could not decide on anything. They couldn't decide on border control. They couldn't decide on the European Union. And here we are again. We have a weak, perhaps fatally wounded, on life support Prime Minister. Is undoubtedly going to... Everyone who thinks he's going to be replaced, and nobody knows the direction of the country. Do you think, if there is a new leader, such as Andy Burnham, it should be put to a general election?
I'm not so sure he's replaced, by the way, and the point made in this long article is worth reading, by the way, is that just changing leader won't change the problems facing the country, and it makes it feel even more insecure. So he seems to be trying to reshape what Keir Starmer's doing. Also, worth noting, Tony Blair, the arch Euro-federalist, He says that just as Brexit wasn't the answer back in 2016, he would say that, wouldn't he? But crucially, reversing it isn't the answer now, because we would go back into the European Union as a supplicant, trying to get favours from the EU, not as a strong player, we should have the EU running to us, wanting us to be part of them, not vice versa. It's a wrong time to join the EU, says Tony Blair. There's a headline for you.
Is it, Nigel Nelson, symptomatic of something else? I'm a Nottingham Forest fan, and until recently, I would just dig out the European Cup final video to make me feel better, because things were always just better in the past. Is that what this is about? The Labour Party is so wounded, it's thrown away so much so quickly. Tony Blair seems like a good idea again.
I think that Tony Blair probably would agree with you that that's why he likes intervening. He still feels that he's got an awful lot of influence as a previous Prime Minister. What he's actually saying, and the important message to take on from what Chopper just mentioned, is that what Labour needs to do, and in fact what any party needs to do, is start with policy, put policy first, and then come on to the politics of it. So basically it's coming up with a policy, then selling it, which is what Tony Blair did during his 3 terms as Prime Minister.
OK, thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, we've got some breaking news for you now. I'm afraid it's sad breaking news. A 12-year-old boy who died after getting into trouble in the River Ribble in Ribchester on Tuesday has now been named as Junior Slater, Lancashire Police said. Just to repeat that. A 12-year-old boy... Oh, there's the picture, look. A 12-year-old boy who died after getting into trouble in the River Ribble at Ribchester on Tuesday has now been named as Junior Slater, Lancashire Police have just said. His family paid tribute to Junior, calling him their little blue-eyed boy. And there's a picture on your screens now. Look, just to repeat that. Sad breaking news. We just had sad breaking news a moment ago of a woman, an innocent bystander who was shot in Sheffield on the early hours of Tuesday. Further sad news, a 12-year-old boy who died after getting into trouble in the River Ribble at Ribchester on Tuesday has now been named as Junior Slater, Lancashire Police said. First picture on your screens there. The family paid tribute to Junior, calling him their little blue-eyed boy. Let's get to the headlines now with Katie Byrne.
Good afternoon. Your headlines at 4:34. Resident doctors will strike from the 15th to the 19th of June as part of their long-running dispute with the government over pay. The BMA announced the strike dates and said there could be more to come in July, saying the new Health Secretary, James Murray, had not improved the government's offer. Household energy prices will rise by 13% in a year in July as soaring wholesale costs caused by the US-Israel war with Iran hits bills. Ofgem says a household using a typical amount of gas and electric will pay £221 more a year. So Tony Blair has accused Sir Keir Starmer of having no plan to fix Britain as he launched an attack on the Labour leader's record in office. The former Prime Minister argued the government needs a fundamental reset after retreating into a left-wing comfort zone. And Iranian media is reporting Iran has seen the, quote, initial unofficial draft of the deal with the US. According to Iranian state TV, under the framework, Iran would restore commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz to pre-war levels within a month, and the US would withdraw military forces and lift a naval blockade. The White House says the reports are a complete fabrication. Those are the headlines for now. More news at 5 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A hot rest of the day to come for western areas. That could allow some thunderstorms to develop through the latter part of this afternoon and into the evening. Meanwhile, across the east, it's a cooler day. We've got high pressure dominating across eastern areas, bringing in more of an easterly wind through today. So a bit more cloud across the east coast, but across the west, we've had some very strong sunshine. Through this evening, there's a risk of thunderstorms with frequent lightning, large hail and thunder too. I don't think everyone's going to see them, but where you do see them, could see some impacts, so do keep an eye out. Elsewhere though, it should be a relatively dry night. Another warm one to come, particularly across the south and across parts of the northwest into tomorrow morning. But Thursday brings plenty more sunny and dry weather, particularly across the east where it's been a little bit cloudier today. So a fine start to the day across western Scotland, a particularly hot day to come for these areas on Thursday. Another warm day as well for Northern Ireland, so a warm start with temperatures already in the teens to start the day. Plenty of sunshine across many central areas of the UK, but across the far west there is a bit more cloud into tomorrow morning. It's quite low cloud, so it will bring some mist and murk across many coastal areas, particularly parts of Cornwall, southwestern parts of Wales, for example. Across the east, though, it's going to be a much brighter day than today, and as a result, temperatures will climb higher than they have done today. There's still a bit of an onshore breeze across the very far coast, but just anywhere inland, temperatures climbing back into the 20s, if not the 30s. Highs of 33 degrees are expected across the London area through Thursday. Elsewhere, another very hot one. A mild night to come into Friday morning, but then there's a change into breezy conditions, particularly across the northwest, with an increased risk of rain, but it does remain warm in the southeast until Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent, congestion causes 20-minute delays between junctions 3 and 2. The M4 westbound between junctions 24 at Coldra and 26 at Malpas is heavily congested. In Devon, the A38 westbound near Plymouth has one lane closed due to a broken down vehicle, leading to slower traffic. The M77 southbound is restricted between junctions 1 and 2 due to a road traffic collision. And on the trains, there are major disruptions on Greater Anglia and Stansted Express services at Cheshunt. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 4:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a public spat between Reform UK's Zia Youssef and Robert Jenrick over deporting foreigners who live in social housing has sparked a national debate. Now, let's look at some of the statistics for foreign nationals as the head of house in social housing in Britain. In total, roughly half of all social housing in London and in Birmingham and in Leicester are given to immigrants. So here's the question that the Reform UK are saying: is it time to kick them out of their houses and perhaps even the country? Let's look into some area in a bit more detail. We've got some maps on your screen now, as you'll see. In North Central and Dartmouth Circus in Birmingham, 69.2% of social housing tenants are foreign born. That's 1,281 out of 1,852 tenants. In Halesbury North in London, 66.3% of all social housing tenants are born outside of the United Kingdom. That's 246 households out of 371 tenants. And in St Matthews and Highfields North in Leicester, an incredible 80.4% of social housing tenants are foreign born. That's 1,407 out of 1,751 tenants. Is that too much? Is it time to remove them from those households? And, as Reform UK are saying, might that be enough grounds to begin their deportation? Let's now speak with the head of operations at the Autonomy Institute, and that's Jack Callum. Jack, welcome to the show. So the figures, you have to admit, are pretty startling. At a time where in places such as Westminster, there's a 107-year waiting list for a 3-bedroom social house. At the same time, 2/3 of those households are filled with people born overseas. Is it time to do something about that?
OK, so looking at some of these wider stats, across the UK nationally, about 90% of social housing in this country goes to people who are UK nationals. So at a national level, it's about 7 to 10% that goes to people who weren't born in the UK. If you want to be eligible for social housing, you have to have recourse to public funds. So you have to typically been in the UK for at least 5 years. You have to be within the many sort of bureaucratic social systems that we have. Many of these people will be working, paying taxes, have been here for a long time, been settled for a long time. So at a national level, 90% of housing goes to people who are born in the UK. Why we have a massive housing shortage and a massive waiting list for social housing is decades of failed policy. Waiting lists are really high and people will struggle to find council houses because from the 1980s onwards, huge amounts of this was sold off to tenants, which then got passed on to private property developers, and we're now paying those, effectively subsidising those private rents because we're paying universal credit and housing allowance to people who are renting these old council houses that are now private tenancies, and also because of decades of austerity in local government and local government powers to invest.
Jack, the facts are the facts. You know, we can blame Margaret Thatcher, we can blame austerity, we can blame anything we want, but the facts before us now, most people want to live in cities for work. Birmingham, London, places like that, half of all social housing is given to people born overseas. And when you talk about you have to be working and contributing, that's not true either, because we know that asylum seekers are housed. Look at Glasgow.
One social housing.
Glasgow is now the asylum seekers capital of the United Kingdom, and there's a 108-year waiting list for a social house in Glasgow, because if you present as homeless in Glasgow, you are put to the front of the queue, and asylum seekers are doing precisely that. People think this is about fairness. It's about fairness. And if you live your whole life in a country where you contribute and pay tax, why is it fair that half of the social housing in our biggest cities are being given to foreign people?
I mean, many of those places have had large foreign populations for a very long time and reflect the cultures and places in which people live.
The population of these cities have changed very quickly over a very short period of time. Back when I was a lad in the 80s and the 70s, there was no problem with uncontrolled mass immigration like we have now. The country has changed.
Look at the country certainly has changed, but we have to look at the national level too. And 90% of social housing is going to UK nationals across the country, countrywide. We have to say as well, it's not asylum seekers that can claim social housing. That's a separate category of people. You have to be a settled refugee to be able to get forms of social housing.
What about HMOs that the government are moving into? That's social housing. Housing of multiple occupation is social housing. It's just got a different bracket. Still paid for by the taxpayers. It's still the government buying houses that could be redeveloped and given to people who are homeless, for example, in Britain, but that's not the government's priority.
The real thing that will fix this, what will cut down waiting lists and ensure that all people who have real needs to bring some to access social housing is a mass programme of council house building. That's been stymied for years by successive governments who've really relied on reducing house prices and private developers. What we need to do is give councils the powers and the funds to build more council houses. 90% of social housing in the UK goes to people from the UK. This is the picture we should be talking about. Those of us that we should be focusing on. Let's build council houses. Let's not focus on a really small percentage, which is going to be people who have really highly developed needs for social housing.
OK, Jack Gannon, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today on the show. Nigel Nelson, let's get you in on this. You know, Reform UK, when they're saying that if you're eligible for a social house and you're born overseas, that ticks the criteria that you will not be allowed to have your indefinite leave to remain renewed.
Well, they're getting rid of indefinite leave to remain. Yeah. So that first of all, the indefinite leave to remain would go under a Reform government. That means they wouldn't get benefits. Where it's all gone completely pear-shaped is that Robert Jedrick seemed to get the policy right on Sunday as he understood it and as the rest of us understood it. So what had previously been said was there were various conditions for the deportation of a migrant, and that would be depending on income level, depending on the hours worked, and social housing. Zia Youssef then throws a wobbly and seems to be saying that it's purely on social housing, and I don't know what that means.
Okay, away from the minutiae of the policy, a lot of people think it's just simply unfair that half of social housing in our biggest cities is given to people who are born overseas, and that should be stopped. It should be Brits that get this housing. That's a fair point.
Well, if you've got people who are paying taxes and working and contributing to the country, and they
there are plenty of Brits who do that.
Of course we have, and they qualify for social housing. Well, the argument there is
107-year waiting list in Westminster, 105 in Enfield, 102 in Merton, 82 in Wandsworth.
Your argument becomes divisive.
Divisive?
Yes, in the sense that social housing should be given not based on whether you're born abroad or born in Britain. They should be based on need.
No, born in Britain. That's the policy.
Well, what do you do with the people who can't get social housing but actually need it?
Go and rent. Go and rent somewhere. Well, anyway, listen, we've got to move on, being told we've got to go. Coming next, we're joined with some legendary builders from Sheffield that become internet sensations for knocking up food in their Scransit van. That's GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's a Lancaster, the mightiest aerial engine of destruction ever conceived and built.
It's one of the most famous aircraft in the world. During World War II, Lancaster bombers filled the skies of Lincolnshire as they completed missions across Europe and further afield. Over the last few years, GB News has followed the Bomber County Gateway Trust and their mission to immortalise this iconic plane for centuries to come. 8 years after the idea was born, members of the public have been given a glimpse of the sculpture on Freedom's wings up close for the first time. GB News viewers helped raise thousands of pounds for the project, which was led by the Trust's chairman, Charlie White.
I'm really, really pleased. You know, it's been one of these things that, like I say, for the last 8 years we've been working on, and to sort of finally get it up and sort of here today, so sort of have a dedication for it. Yeah, it's so special. The idea when we sort of put it up here 8 years ago was that people could drive down the A side of the A46 and see it, and just make them smile. You know, the welcome home to Lincolnshire, or welcome back into Nottinghamshire. We think it's it's an over £1 million project with sort of over £500,000 raised, sort of public donations and sponsorship. It's people that have come along and wanted to help. They have some connection with the military or the RAF, and they just wanted to be part of it.
The design is based on Lancaster VNN, which crashed on its return to RAF Swinderby in September 1942 after both portside engines failed.
Weighing more than 100 tonnes and taller than the Angel of the North, this sculpture welcomes people into Bomber County.
This site will officially open for visitors later in the summer, inspiring future generations and ensuring we don't forget the sacrifices of Bomber Command.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, 3 legendary builders have become internet cookery stars by knocking up hot dinners in their transit van. It's White Van Scran. Let's now speak with the builders, Nathan and Pedro Moore and Archie Price. Lads, you've become internet legends. Pedro, you're the chef, and I believe you're about to knock us up some White Van Scran. Over to you.
I'm going to do a quick omelette for you right here, right now.
Quick omelette. This is how we do it.
Straight in pan.
Are we classed as legends then?
Yeah, you're legends, mate. So tell us what's going on here. You're pouring, what is that, batter? Here you go. You're chopping up a pepper, what, with a Stanley knife?
Yeah, so now straight in.
Fresh blade.
Every time.
All right, and what's going into this, lads? What are you doing for us here?
Salt, pepper, onion, garlic. Really, it's like easy, fun cooking. You put whatever you want in it. So pepper, salt.
But that was just half a cup of milk and half a cup of flour.
One egg.
Whisk that up. Bit of that in. Simple cooking.
Made easier. If you go on our social page, the Scransit van, all our recipes are on there. Yeah.
And lads, this all started right when you went camping and you left your hob in the van and you knocked something up, you filmed it, you went to bed and had millions of views overnight. And the rest, as they say, is internet legend history.
Yeah, we got stuck on a road, couldn't get to the sandwich shop. Pedro had been fishing, left his stove on back, so he's just knocked some chili con carne up in pan. We ate that, 3 million views overnight. Everyone was just asking what you're cooking tomorrow, so we just carried on with it. And like you'll say, yeah, rest is history. And apparently we're legends now.
Legends, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, a lot of the recipes are better than my missus cooks for me. That's it, I'm getting divorced when I go home tonight. But on a serious point, isn't it great to see lads knocking up food? You know, it's cheaper, it's healthier, and it's inspiring people to get cooking themselves, lads.
A lot of young lads do.
Yeah, we have a lot of young lads and a lot of middle-aged blokes, single, and said that Pedro's learnt them how to cook. He showed them how simple it can be.
Look at that, you're chopping up an onion there with a Stanley knife, you're dropping it in, it's all freshly cooked in the wagon. You've got a book out, boys, haven't you? You've got a book out, you sold 600,000 copies, have you? You want to sell some more? What's it called?
It's called The Scransit Van. it's on links on our socials.
And it does what
everywhere.
It says
Look at everything up back. We've got meals, recipes, everything in there.
All right, gentlemen, in terms of your greatest hits, what's your most popular recipe you've ever done?
He did chili dogs, and that did 12 million views. But I like a good curry.
Yeah, curry's a favourite by a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. Depending how cold or hot it is on day. He did some nice cold tuna pasta the other day.
We'll go for a flip it, man.
He's going to do a flip.
Beautiful. Every time, never fail.
That is just showing off. You can not only toss a pancake and get away with it, you can do it in the front of a blooming white van. That is just showing off, lads.
Pepper on top, look, that's how it's done.
And I'll use whatever. We've done skewers on drill bits, whatever tools he's got, he uses. And then you've got to make sure that cheese is slightly thin.
And everything cheese. As they say, slightly thin cheese.
I'm getting. I wish I could just get in that wagon and tuck into that, lads. It looks better than what I'm have for my tea tonight.
Oh, we get requests every day for someone to sit in van, but there's not enough room.
Yeah, there's only 3 seats.
We're thinking about getting a crew cab.
A bigger van.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to leave you to it. Tuck into your food. Very, very best of luck. With all your endeavours, your legends. Thank you very much, lads. Appreciate it. Coming up next, energy bills are about to go up by over £200 a year for millions as Ed Miliband, meanwhile, continues to spout hot air. I'll be joined by Reform's Richard Tice in the studio next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A hot rest of the day to come for western areas. That could allow some thunderstorms to develop through the latter part of this afternoon and into the evening. Meanwhile, across the east, it's a cooler day. We've got high pressure dominating across eastern areas, bringing in more of an easterly wind through today. So a bit more cloud across the east coast, but across the west, we've had some very strong sunshine. Through this evening, there's a risk of thunderstorms with frequent lightning, large hail and thunder too. I don't think everyone's going to see them, but where you do see them, we could see some impacts. So do keep an eye out. Elsewhere, though, it should be a relatively dry night. Another warm one to come, particularly across the south and across parts of the northwest into tomorrow morning. But Thursday brings plenty more sunny and dry weather, particularly across the east where it's been a little bit cloudier today. So a fine start to the day across western Scotland, a particularly hot day to come for these areas on Thursday. Another warm day as well for Northern Ireland, so a warm start with temperatures already in the teens to start the day. Plenty of sunshine across many central areas of the UK, but across the far west there is a bit more cloud into tomorrow morning. It's quite low cloud, so it will bring some mist and murk across many coastal areas, particularly parts of Cornwall, southwestern parts of Wales, for example. Across the east, though, it's going to be a much brighter day than today, and as a result, temperatures will climb higher than they have done today. There's still a bit of an onshore breeze across the very far coast, but just almost anywhere inland. Temperatures climbing back into the 20s, if not the 30s. Highs of 33 degrees are expected across the London area through Thursday. Elsewhere, another very hot one. A mild night to come into Friday morning, but then there's a change into breezy conditions, particularly across the northwest, with an increased risk of rain, but it does remain warm in the southeast until Sunday. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A9 is closed in both directions at Inch-Magranachan due to a vehicle fire. Eastbound on the M4 between junctions 28 and 26 traffic is heavily congested. In Stockton-on-Tees, the A19 northbound has 15-minute delays because of a broken-down vehicle closing one lane. The M56 eastbound between junctions 14 and 12 in Holton contains 50-minute delays. Lastly, the A38 westbound in Devon has one lane closed due to a broken-down vehicle. And on the trains, major disruption continues at Cheshunt for Greater Anglia and the Stansted Express. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Are you dreaming of a ton of tax-free cash this summer? We want to make that dream come true with a stunning £76,543 and 21 pence in cash to spend however you like. Put a new car on the drive or just relax in the knowledge that this year we've got your back. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless.
I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Breaking news. Let's cross now to the White House, where US President Donald Trump is holding a cabinet meeting.
Something that I wish the media would talk about, because to me it's one of the biggest things ever to happen in our country. Certainly as to medical, anything having to do with medical, because drug prices, we're delivering record-setting discounts on prescription drugs with price differences of 400, 500, and even 600% at the TrumpRx.gov. We recently added nearly 1,000 low-cost generics to the website. So we have drugs down 400, 500, 600%. Now you could say 80, 90, 70, 60, 50% if you want. There are two ways. It depends on the way you ask the question. But a pill that would sell in Germany or in, let's say, in London for $10, we're selling for here for $130. And I got the countries to all agree, otherwise they would have had to pay big tariffs. I don't want to go into it, but I had some very interesting discussions. They said vehemently no, and then when I said, that's all right, we're going to charge you a 50% tariff on everything you sell into America, they said, well, like we said, we'll say yes. And every single country agreed, and every drug company agreed. So we have most favored nation. So we were paying the highest drug prices in the world. Now we're paying the lowest drug prices in the world. So that pill that I talked about would go from $10 to $20. The world is bigger than the U.S. Hard to believe, but it's true. So it's not like you cut it in the middle. They just had to go up a little bit, but a little bit is a doubling of a price. So a little bit's a lot. So the pill would go from $10 to $20, and we'd go from $130 to $20. Think of that. So we would get, if you remember, some of you were at the news conference I had in my first term where I got the prices down 1/8%, 1/4% my first term. And I was so proud of it because drug prices hadn't come down in 28 years, and I was the first one to do it. But now I'm getting them down, not 1/8%, I'm getting them down 400, 500, 600. Or if you want to use it a different way, you could say 70%, 80%, 90%, 50%. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I got that through, well, everybody knew it was taking place, but we paid the highest prices anywhere in the world. Now we're paying the lowest prices anywhere in the world, and the press refuses to write about it. I think it's the biggest thing. And for healthcare, you know, so much of it is prescription drug prices and drug prices. And with them coming down, the healthcare is going to come down very substantially. We recently added nearly 1,000 low-cost generics too, as I said, and that's, you know, 1,000 drugs, and it's all on. And this was not given by me. This was given by Dr. Oz and Bobby, and I, you know, wasn't sure whether or not I loved the idea, but they said we want to use Trump. TrumpRx.gov is what it is, and it's the hottest site I think anywhere on the planet, from what I understand, Bobby. Right? It's really great. People are calling up and they're buying drugs for literally a fraction of the price, and it should be the biggest story. And on that alone, we should win the midterms. On that alone, we should win the midterms. But the press doesn't talk about it. It's the biggest thing to happen in the drug industry ever, maybe, ever. And the press doesn't even want to write stories about it. We made the largest ever investment in U.S. military, $1 trillion, and we're asking actually for $1.5 trillion for the coming year. And we have the strongest military anywhere in the world, as you know. You saw what we did with Venezuela. That worked out very quickly.
Donald Trump there at the White House, a cabinet meeting talking about domestic issues. We'll keep one beady eye on that, and if he starts talking about the Iranian war, rest assured we will cut back if anything kicks off in the White House there. But meanwhile, back to Westminster, we've got a ton of politics to sink our teeth into this side of the pond, because Ed Miliband is pressing ahead, of course, with his net zero drive, insisting Britain must move faster towards clean, homegrown power, as Chris Hope throws a bottle across the studio, despite households now being hammered with a £221 annual energy bill increase. So, with prices going up, is it finally time to admit that net zero is bankrupting Britain? I'm delighted to be joined in the studio with Reform UK business, trade and energy spokesperson Richard Tice, GB News' political editor Christopher Hope, and GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Mr. Tice, I shall start with you. We were promised, were we not, a £300 reduction in our energy bills, and instead today they've gone up, up, up and away.
So just to remind people, at the general election, the average Ofgem price cap was about £1,560 per year. As of July this year, it's going back up to about £1,860. And that is obviously a significant increase. And lots of people on the left will say, it's because of the price of fuel, because of the Iran war. I would just simply remind people that the gas price here in the UK is the same as it was in mid-2021 before the Ukraine war, when energy bills and the cap here was around about £1,000, plus or minus. And the reason for all of this increase in the last 5 years has got nothing to do with the gas price. It's got all to do with net stupid zero, all to do with the extra levies, the taxes, the policy costs, the extra transmission costs from National Grid. And just the last couple of days, we saw there's an extra £75 on people's annual bill to pay for the bad debts because of all those people who can't afford these extortionate bills. And yet Miliband, he wants to double down. I mean, when's he actually going to wake up and start smelling the coffee and realise that Tice is right.
But the Tice isn't always right, is it? The price might be right,
time.
or is the Tice right or wrong? But how does it feel having Tony Blair agreeing with you?
Well, look,
he says
I'm delighted when
your latest recruit to reform
when
UK.
lots of people, when their eyes wake up to the fact that, I've been banging this drum, sometimes a lonely furrow, for about 4 years now, and I've just been proven bang on the money. And I just come back to the simple point that the price in 2021, here's the other big thing. The price of wholesale gas, not gasoline at the pumps, wholesale gas in the US is exactly what it was the day before the Iran war. The price of wholesale gas in the UK, about 30% higher. Why? Because we're not using our own shale gas, our own energy treasure, which of course they are in the US. If you produce it and consume it domestically with long-term contracts, then you can get stability. That's what we should have.
But critics say the price is set internationally, don't
It's not.
That's what the government says.
But
the price is set, therefore
they
it makes
say
no
that,
difference.
and they are lying. I've called them out on it again and again in the chamber. Because they don't understand it, they can't respond. I just repeat, Chris, the price of gas in the US is about a third of the price of gas here in the UK. And it hasn't moved since the Iran war began. Ours has gone up 30%. So it is just simply factually incorrect.
Is that the absence of an interconnector connecting, or as we have on continental Europe, we have key connectors which mean the price is all the same across all those countries?
The reality is that we've all become reliant on liquefied natural gas. So Sunak did a long-term deal to buy a whole load from the US. They're saying happy days. And most of the rest of ours comes from Qatar and has to go through the Straits of Hormuz. So we deliberately, negligently, criminally negligently allowed ourselves to be exposed and vulnerable. If we used our own North Sea oil and gas and our own shale gas from wonderful counties like Lincolnshire, then our gas prices and our fuel prices would be a lot lower.
Now, of course, critics would say that this damages the environment. It would be burning up more fossil fuels, would be injurious to the planet as a whole. What do you say to them?
First of all, about 80% of all our energy in the UK and indeed elsewhere in the world is not electricity. It's basically oil and gas. And secondly,
which makes electricity.
The 20% of electricity has also been made by gas. Most of the energy we use for transportation, right, and for heating homes, bearing in mind 24 million homes in the UK have gas boilers that Miliband wants to replace with expensive heat pumps. And globally, only about 2.8% of all energy used around the world is wind and solar. And we've spent something in the order of £10 trillion in the worst investment ever.
And that'll be 77% by 2029. That's the way. That's the global direction of travel.
Nonsense. Of wind and solar, by 2029, it'll probably be about 3%.
No,
the cost of it.
This is globally. You're talking about 77% of electricity made by wind and solar by that date, and that the direction of travel the world is going in.
You're confusing, Nigel, you're confusing electricity with energy, right? Energy is oil and gas, heating, transportation, fuel, right?
Which makes electricity.
That's what makes the world go round.
Which makes electricity.
Yeah. In the UK, electricity is 20% of our total energy uses. The rest is used using oil and gas. That's what makes the world go round. And everybody accepts it still will in 2050, 60, 70, until something else comes along. And, this is insane. By the way, it's not sustainable or environmentally friendly to cover 100 square miles of Lincolnshire with solar panels. And it's not environmentally friendly or sustainable to create more CO2 importing gas from the US rather than using our own gas offshore in the North Sea.
OK, that's a hefty old chunk on net zero. Could we talk about Tony Blair? Blair's back. Did he ever go away? Chris, let's start with you. Absolutely steaming in to Sir Keir Starmer, saying he's got no plan, he's got no clue, and he's acting like a dead man walking.
Yes, it does seem he's attacking Keir Starmer. He says he did well to win the election by the 160 majority, of course. But what have they done with that? I mean, the problem is there's no story behind this party, this Keir Starmer. It wasn't the world has changed, but the party hasn't changed. There's a soft centre. They're dealing with this comfort blanket of not trying to go where Reform UK or where the votes are, arguably. He makes this point on a day we're normally watching p.m. queues, a very political day in Westminster. Tony Blair has set the House running with this report. He talks about Wes Streeting being a huge political talent, and Andy Burnham was an outstanding member of my government, which says it all, I would argue. There's definitely clearly the Blairite candidate. Yeah, was, not is, was.
Andy Burnham was a
exactly.
talent.
There was a talent, and then Streeting is one. I think that says it all, frankly. But yes, it is damning. He says this government is governing from the traditional Labour soft left in a comfort zone, and he talks here to do the things we want to do. We need the economy to work, and that involves drilling in the North Sea oil and gas.
You'd have thought, Richard Tice, that you agree at last with Tony Blair.
No. It's the other way around. I've been right all along, and others finally are realising it, including Tony Blair.
So drill, baby, drill is a part of it. Back to it looks like a political character assassination of Keir Starmer by Tony Blair. And one thing he's pointed out here, I think we've consistently talked about on this channel for a long, long time, not only does he not have a worked-out, coherent plan, but there's no story. The Labour Party doesn't have a story. People don't seem to know what it stands for. And say what you like about Blairism, what it became with open borders, immigration to the broader East European nations, what happened with the Iraq War. It had optimism, it had a country behind it, and those are qualities that are sadly lacking from this.
Well, he had a narrative, and he inherited a very, very good national profit and loss and balance sheet that the Tories gave him in 1997. And in a sense, he just carried on. But he was a storyteller, and in a sense, the values that we put forward: family, community, country. Again, that tells a story about who we are, about our hope, about our optimism. But yeah, running anything, running a big business, running a country, there are tough decisions when you're struggling.
Well, Martin, we've got the response from the government to this. We should play it to see what Richard had to say about it from Dan Tomlinson. He's the junior Treasury Minister.
I think it is important to listen to what a former Prime Minister has had to say. He's the only Labour Prime Minister in history to win 3 general elections in a row with quite significant majorities, so I'll give it a proper read later. But on some of his points, I'm afraid to say, even though I respect the man, I just disagree with him. I think of people in my constituency who are on 0-hour contracts and work, who struggle, probably this morning woke up not knowing whether they were going to get a shift. I think it's the right thing to do, that this government has done, is to look at the fact that 0-hour contracts, hundreds of thousands of people on them across the country with that uncertainty, and to legislate through our Employment Rights Act to make sure that if people are on them for a few months, that they are able to move off them and have that certainty and stability.
Okay, that's Dan Thompson giving the government's view, picking and choosing what he's defending there. But I think the point is, where is the idea behind this government? We've been here for 2 years, we're yet to see it. It's now caused Keir Starmer endless problems. When, frankly, will this government break out of its comfort zone, throw off the stabilisers on the bike, and just go off on their own and finally do something which they for the people they want to support?
Worth pointing out that Dan Tomlinson there is a lovely fellow. He was 4 years old when Tony Blair was voted into power a long, long time ago. A lot of water under the Labour Party's bridge since then. He talked about net zero, Chris, and earlier on today we were out and about on the streets of London putting this to the great British public, because the thing about net zero is that I think it's a principle that a lot of people agree with, but they don't like the price.
And it's worth listening to the response here. It's quite a balanced group of people here. You might find it quite interesting.
And do you think the government are doing enough to help vulnerable people?
No. They don't care about us anymore. That's the way I look at it anyway. They don't care about us.
Probably no, but will other governments, other parties do better? I am really not sure. There's so much uncertainty.
Oh, well, they're trying. I mean, they had a hell of a lot to deal with when they came in. I mean, you can't just deal with one thing at a time. You've got to try and deal with a lot. But I think that this is the right government.
So we've got a varied palette there, but Richard Tice, I wanted to ask you a question about the political class, you know, the Davos class, the World Economic Forum class, the broader political body seem to have a unified vision about net zero. It's like a faith, it's almost like a religion. But when you get out there and ask the punters, they, of course, agree with the idea of a cleaner planet, but they don't like the cost of it.
Well, which is basic common sense. And when net zero was invented, no one talked about the cost of it. And it's a bit like, in the last 15 years, the political class, here and elsewhere, have promoted 2 big things. they promoted mass immigration. They said it would make us better off. And they promoted net zero. They said that it would provide great opportunities as well as saving the planet. And both of those things have actually made people a lot poorer per person. That's the key thing. And people are now realising, why are their bills, their energy bills, their electricity bills, so much higher than 5, 6, 7 years ago? And it's all because of all these levies and taxes and transmission costs. And we're just calling it out, and the penny's dropping.
Can I just interrupt you, if I may, Richard Tice, and also you gentlemen? We've got some reports coming here, some more breaking news. Of course, we've had 5 days already of channel crossings. Today is day 6 of what we've been calling the Star Armada, the day 6 of the Star Armada. And by the way, there are 5 more calm red flag days ahead of us yet. But we're now getting reports coming to us here at GB News that dozens of illegal migrants have crossed the channel today for the 6th consecutive straight day. Reports of more crossings still to come. So just to repeat, we now know it was over 1,100, nudging 1,200 crossings thus far in 5 days. Today is day 6 and the tide is continuing. Dozens of illegal immigrants, we understand, have crossed the channel for the 6th consecutive day after 70 arrived on a migrant dinghy that launched from a beach near Boulogne. Now, just to point out, Boulogne, of course, is significantly further to the south than Dunkirk or Calais, extending that entire front to the south and to north to Belgium. Richard Tice, news just coming in here. 6 consecutive days now. Clearly, the previous government couldn't stop the boats, and this government cannot smash the gangs.
Well, how's that going, smashing the gangs? I mean, I think something in the well over 40,000 have now crossed since the general election. And regrettably, this is no surprise at all. They've got no effective policy. They've just shoveled a whole load, hundreds more millions of pounds to the French. And my concern is actually that money is literally, it is just being spread around the authorities and the police in Northern. I fear that there's a degree of corruption and malfeasance going on that we just cannot believe. It's getting worse, not better, for all that money we're shoveling
There is
them.
no proof of what you're fearing when they're not here to defend themselves. Where is the proof for that, first of all? But they are coming from further away.
I tell you what, Christopher, over the coming days and weeks, more and more evidence will come, video evidence that I'm aware of, that will come out, which will show that this is just an abuse. And in other words, how can it be getting better, right? If you spend all of that money, and what have we bought? A few riot shields, nothing else has happened. So why are we sending the money? Why not make it on a performance-related
40,000
basis?
disruptions over that period. So, I mean, well, the whole point is that more people would be arriving if it hadn't been for the work with the French, especially...
And they were basically detaining, processing within a fortnight. An appeal took place in the following week, and then they were only accepting about 20%. We're now accepting about 70 to 80%. So we know it can be done. It was previously done by a Labour government with some cojones. Unfortunately, we've got a Labour government here that's got no guts, no courage, no leadership.
But 23,000 people were detained and removed last year. So you talk about 24,000 that you'll actually put in detention camps.
I'm not sure how many of those came illegally on dinghies.
Of that 23,000, those are not asylum seekers that came across the pond. I suspect that's only a few thousand. Most of them are now being given asylum almost en bloc, almost like a sort of amnesty is going on, particularly from certain countries.
OK, gentlemen, we've got some more breaking news here to come in on that same topic, day 6 of what we're calling the Star Armada. Dozens of illegal migrants have crossed the channel for the 6th straight day after 70 arrived on a migrant dinghy that launched from a beach near Boulogne. And as we said, that's further to the south. We've got some more breaking news. In an unprecedented move, migrants have been charged following small boat crossings during the bank holiday heatwave. Charges were authorised by lawyers in CPS Direct, the out-of-hours team in the Crown Prosecution Service, to ensure suspects are charged swiftly and appeared in court as soon as possible. Now, those prosecutors we're hearing for arriving in the UK without entry clearance were. That's Osman Yesil, 47, a Turkish national who arrived on the 22nd of May and pled guilty at his first court hearing. Tawfiq Boubazine, 33, an Algerian national who arrived on the same day and has also pled guilty. And also Adejan Kota, 29, an Albanian national who arrived on the 23rd of May and pleaded guilty on the 26th of May at Folkestone Magistrates Court and was sentenced to 8 months in prison. So I think this is part of that clampdown of identifying who the boat pilots are. The boat pilots are being arrested, but it's three people.
Well, 3 out of 1,100. I mean, how does that help?
OK, so 3 arrests down. Just to repeat the breaking news, day 6 of the Star Marder continuing. There have been dozens, we hear, of illegal immigrants arriving on British beaches today. Thank you, Richard Tice. Thank you, Chris Hope. Thank you, Nigel Nelson. Still much more to come, including more reaction to that breaking news. Arrests have been made. Still to come, we'll get more reaction as former Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair slams Keir Starmer as having no coherent plan for Britain. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:26. With me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, speaking a few moments ago, President Donald Trump gave an update on the conflict in Iran. Let's take a listen.
Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes.
That's Donald Trump there saying we're not quite there yet, Nigel Nelson. How many times have we had these false starts now where we're told, oh, we're 95% there, the war is going to be solved, the Straits of Hormuz will be open, we'll be taking the enriched uranium from the Ayatollahs, and then the Ayatollahs say that's not the case, and the markets are up and down like yo-yos. More or less everybody now just wants this war over, don't they?
Yes, they do. And quite clearly Donald Trump does too. I mean, it seems to have achieved absolutely nothing as far as anyone can see. I mean, the Iranians are at the moment demanding reparations from the US for the damage that's been caused to their country.
No chance.
And at the very least, the release of some of the money that's been frozen. There's about $24 billion that are knocking about that the
got no chance on
that the Iranians want back. Well, we'll see.
A regime that killed a minimum of 40,000 of its own people won't be getting reparations. It's absurd.
That's what they're demanding. But at the moment, it's very difficult to see what this has actually achieved so far. Now, at the end of all this, we hope that Iran will never get an atomic bomb. But that's no different from the position before the war started. We'd already had an agreement in place, negotiated by Barack Obama, which was meant to ensure that. We had weapons inspectors going in and having...
that didn't do any good. Well, they built and built and built.
Yeah, but this has done nothing good.
Well, they've wiped out 2 Ayatollahs.
They wiped out one as far as the lead Ayatollah.
Where's the other one been? We haven't seen head nor tail of him.
Yeah, well, he appears to still be alive in the sense he's still making statements. But you're right, he was probably injured in that.
Do you not agree, in the broader terms, that an Islamist psychopath with a nuclear bomb is terrible for the world?
Yes.
Something had to be done.
Yes, I agree entirely, but this has not achieved it. The point is, the reason we didn't join in the war or allow our bases to be used to begin with is simply because this war is not going to achieve that aim any more than we have with negotiation before in diplomacy. We're no further on is the point. And so what Donald Trump's got to explain is, why did he do it?
Well, perhaps it's because you just can't carry on. So the plan from Biden and from Obama was one of the, not only of appeasement, but billions of dollars was funneled into the economy. How was that spent? On missiles, on armaments, on the nuclear program, on oppressing the people. We don't know.
They had really serious sanctions going on in Iran. The people were struggling internally. I mean, it hit the people really badly. So the sanctions were in place, and as far as we know, that the diplomacy side of it was working, or at least hadn't come to an end.
OK, interrupts on a busy afternoon already of breaking news. We have another moment of breaking news now. Let's turn to the breaking news from earlier on today, when earlier on the BMA, the British Medical Association, announced yet more strikes.
Following a meeting with the Health Secretary, James Murray, this afternoon, we were hoping for an improved offer to resolve our jobs and our pay disputes that we have for resident doctors with the government. Sadly, there was no further details on a jobs package, and there was no additional investment offered towards restoring the lost value of our pay. And therefore, after 6 weeks of conversation since the last round of industrial action, we feel like we have no choice but to announce further industrial action, which we do believe is not inevitable, and we are asking for further discussions and further negotiations to try and avert further industrial action in June.
There we go. It's Groundhog Day. Round and round we go. More junior doctor strikes to go ahead, after all, next month. The public sympathy surely is wearing very, very thin on this one now. And speaking a few moments ago, the Health Secretary, James Murray, insisted that the new pay deal was a good one.
I'm really disappointed that the BMA Resident Doctors Committee have called a strike which is unnecessary and totally avoidable. I met with the BMA committee earlier today as the new Health Secretary, and I made clear to them that my door was open to working with them when it comes to job progression, when it comes to working conditions, training opportunities. What I did make clear to them, though, was that when it comes to pay, the offer on the table is a really good one. The offer on the table is a 4.9% average increase this year, rising to over 7% for some of the lowest paid, and that's on top of an increase of 28.9% over the last 3 years. And I think going any further than that, people would agree is unaffordable and unrealistic.
There we go, Nigel Nelson. We've got a new Health Secretary in James Murray, and the same old troubles waiting in his in-tray.
Yes, well, nothing's changed. I mean, clearly, the government has not increased the pay offer to the junior doctors. So on the basis of that, yes, I mean, we'd expect another strike in June. I mean, I don't think that these strikes are the right thing to do. They did get a huge increase over the last 3 years, and that's perfectly true. But I can't quite see what point the talks were today on the basis that nothing has actually changed.
And it just underlines my previous point. I think the public sympathy now is really, you know, the cup has ran dry. People are sick to death now of their procedures being interrupted, you know, of the NHS being held to ransom. I just think people are sick to the back teeth of these strikes now. Public sympathy is absolutely more or less non-existent. Well, let's now speak with our national reporter, Will Godley. Will, welcome to the show. So, once again, we've got a new health minister, but the same old problems. And here we go again, yet more junior doctor strikes.
Absolutely, Martin. Yeah, James Murray's only been in the job for a matter of weeks, and today he had his first meeting with the BMA resident doctors. But following that meeting, clearly it didn't go very well because they have announced yet more strikes. These are the 16th round of strikes since they started their strike action, this long-running strike action in 2023. And so far, the last 15 strikes have cost us £3 billion. This one, no doubt, going to cost us yet more money, but also irritate patients even more, Martin. As you say, people's operations going to be cancelled, as will tests and also appointments cancelled and have to be rescheduled during this 4-day of strike action from 7 a.m. on Monday the 15th of June, ending at just before 7 a.m, 6:59 on Friday the 19th of June. And the BMA said if further progress isn't made, more strikes could be announced in July. Now, what are they asking for? Well, they say their demands are straightforward. They say they want a credible, meaningful offer, compromising concrete new jobs and real progress towards pay restoration. And that pay restoration, they say, makes up for what they say is a 26% loss in real terms pay since 2008. But, of course, remember, doctors over the last 4 years have received a 33% pay rise, and just this last year that includes a 3.5% pay rise. So clearly the government feel they have offered enough, and James Murray saying that what they're asking for at the moment is unrealistic, unaffordable and unsustainable. He also said that the patients aren't backing this strike action, and the latest stats, Martin, back this up. When doctors had their last round of strikes back over the Easter weekend, YouGov found in a survey that 55% of people oppose these resident doctors' strikes, opposed to 37% of people supporting them. But nonetheless, the BMA pushing on with these strikes because they say that they cannot be asked to negotiate in good faith for weeks, only to be told there's nothing left on the negotiating table. So they feel this is their last resort in order to get not only pay restoration, but also huge numbers of more of these specialised training positions, which they feel there's not enough of at the moment, and that's what's leading to resident doctors leaving the NHS. But until they can obviously work out this dispute, these strikes are going to continue.
Thank you very much, Will Godley. And a lot of people might say, let's make doctors like coppers, like the army, like prison warders. They can't strike. Why should doctors be able to strike? Thank you very much, Will. Now, still to come, the Conservative councillors in Tameside in the northwest have been accused of treachery after they did a so-called backroom deal with the Labour Party to lock reform out of power. I'll be joined by a councillor there who sensationally quit the Conservative Party over this scandal. But first, here's your traffic and your travel updates. Stay safe and stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A9 is closed at Inch-Magranachan due to a vehicle fire. On the M4 eastbound, congestion persists between junctions 28 at Tredegar Park and 26 at Malpas. The A19 northbound in Stockton-on-Tees has one lane closed due to a broken-down vehicle. Heavy congestion on the M56 eastbound is noted between Chester and Junction 14 in Cheshire West and Chester. The A38 westbound in Devon is partly blocked due to a broken down vehicle. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces delays between Lancaster and Oxenholme Lake District. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A hot rest of the day to come for western areas. That could allow some thunderstorms to develop through the latter part of this afternoon and into the evening. Meanwhile, across the east, it's a cooler day. We've got high pressure dominating across eastern areas, bringing in more of an easterly wind through today. So a bit more cloud across the east coast, but across the west, we've had some very strong sunshine. Through this evening, there's a risk of thunderstorms with frequent lightning, large hail and thunder too. I don't think everyone's going to see them, but where you do see them, could see some impacts, so do keep an eye out. Elsewhere though, it should be a relatively dry night. Another warm one to come, particularly across the south and across parts of the northwest into tomorrow morning. But Thursday brings plenty more sunny and dry weather, particularly across the east where it's been a little bit cloudier today. So a fine start to the day across western Scotland, a particularly hot day to come for these areas on Thursday. Another warm day as well for Northern Ireland, so a warm start with temperatures already in the teens to start the day. Plenty of sunshine across many central areas of the UK, but across the far west there is a bit more cloud into tomorrow morning. It's quite low cloud, so it will bring some mist and murk across many coastal areas, particularly parts of Cornwall, southwestern parts of Wales, for example. Across the east though, it's going to be a much brighter day than today, and as a result temperatures will climb higher than they have done today. There's still a bit of an onshore breeze across the very far coast, but just anywhere inland, temperatures climbing back into the 20s, if not the 30s. Highs of 33 degrees are expected across the London area through Thursday. Elsewhere, another very hot one. A mild night to come into Friday morning, but then there's a change into breezy conditions, particularly across the northwest, with an increased risk of rain, but it does remain warm in the southeast until Sunday. Bye-bye.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 6. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. A former Tory councillor has resigned from Stalebridge and Hyde Conservatives after accusing his former party on Tameside Council of voting with the Labour Party to block reform. Now, Liam Billington said that the Conservatives need to rebuild and offer a genuine alternative for residents, but he was so disgusted with the situation he said stinks, he quit the Conservative Party. Here's my guest now, the former Conservative councillor for Tameside Council, Liam Billington. Liam, welcome to the show. Tell us what you were so appalled by that it made you resign from the Conservative Party.
Well, I'm absolutely disgusted that the Conservative group on Tameside Council have done a deal with the Labour Party. So Tameside is technically in no overall control, by name only, because they've got a number of councillors within the council who were former Labour councillors who were expelled over the Trigamy Timbers saga that led to the Gorton and Denton by-election. So Labour have got that inbuilt support there. They've also got a independent councillor in Stalybridge North that's backing them. So they've got the magic number, which is 29. And then when it came to a motion which Reform put forward to select a new leader of the council, which would have been either a Reform council leader or a Labour council leader, the Conservative group went for the Labour council leader, and that is not good. And then what happens after that is that the Conservatives end up with a number of deputy committee positions, more than what they had last year, despite losing seats. And yet Reform, who have a third of councillors, have come out with absolutely zero. To me, that's not fair. It's not playing by the book, and it just stinks of a deal. And I'm sorry, I just can't tolerate it anymore. I had to go.
So what you're saying here is that the chummy relationship between the Conservatives and the Labour Party that already existed was used to ensure that they kept their feet under the table and has been used to ostensibly lock out any insurgent members from the Reform UK?
Yeah, I'd say that. I wouldn't say that whilst I was a councillor, it was chummy at all. You know, I've been on your show a number of times where I have really been critical of the Labour group. And I just want to say that, you know, this is an isolated case in Tameside. It's not, you know, something that's spread throughout Greater Manchester. We have Conservative councillors across the country who do a great job, like in Trafford, where they've been fighting against the Cresta Court. You've got Conservatives in Bolton who really tackling Labour on regeneration. And it's the Conservatives in Tameside that are letting the side down. And I think Kerry Badenoch has been a fantastic leader. She's made real progress within the party. And to me, this stinks of what happened in Worcestershire with the Green Party deal. And I think that Kerry Badenoch needs to make an example of these so-called Conservative councillors.
And Liam Billington, I think you might have frozen up there. OK, that's fine. We have some rights for reply. Thank you, Liam Billington, an opportune moment, because we have approached the local Conservative Party and central command at the Conservatives for a right to reply. It's not a balanced thing to do. Here are those statements now. The leader of the Conservative group in Tameside, Councillor Andrea Colborne, has said this: the Conservative group firmly rejects claims that any deal has been made with Labour. There is no coalition, no agreement and no secret deal. These suggestions are simply untrue. This was a decision about responsible governance, not political alignment. And another Conservative Party source said, "We're disappointed that this individual has decided to resign their membership. But let's be quite clear. The Conservatives have only 5 councillors out of 57, and Labour are the largest party. The Conservatives are committed to ensuring that Tameside Council has a stable council. Be in no doubt we will continue to hold Labour to account locally and nationally every single day." Now, coming up next, Labour hands yet more money to Mauritius. It's an extra £12 million in taxpayers' cash after signing, of course, the £35 billion surrender deal to Chagos in the latest twist in the Chagos surrender saga. I'll be delighted to be joined by the proud Chagosian Miss Lee Mandarin, live and direct from the Chagos Islands next. But first, here's the forecast for some of your top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. The temperatures may start to fall across the UK over the coming days, but it remains hot across central and western parts of Europe. Here, a heat wave continues. Sunny spells across the Canary Islands, temperatures approaching 30 Celsius, the mid-30s for parts of Spain and Portugal, cooler around the coast. That will lead to the risk of some thunderstorms on Thursday across parts of Italy, perhaps Greece as well, and temperatures here above average. And it remains on the hot and sunny side as well.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's I wrote it as a chronicle of the last years of my parents' lives, and my mother in particular, her struggle coping with my father's dementia, and actually the whole family's. And they were lucky to start with in that they were well into the 90s before they actually lost their independence, and they were in relatively good health. But they also were not aware of their growing need in any way whatsoever, and they were reluctant to give up their independence, as we can imagine, and we could see just how much need they had. So this sort of tender dance started between them letting go and us stepping forward as a family. And I remember one incident in particular when I pointed out to my father that that somebody had smashed the wind mirrors on their car. And his reply was, it doesn't matter, dear, we don't use them anyway. And it was this sort of sense of denial, and the book chronicles this gradual development of trying to help them while still respecting their dignity.
Yes. One of the poems that you want to read us demonstrates that.
Yes.
Would you read it for us?
Yes, of course. We've been here since dawn, cleaning to make the house presentable for the buyers who are back for one last look. We had Dad holed up in the kitchen, but he's broken out and against all instruction is telling the surveyor, it does have its problems. He was the same at their interview for the retirement village when he kept asking over and over, is there an emergency doctor on site? He scuppered the last sale, talking about the dormouse they'd found paddling in the toilet and how, even though they'd fished it out with a colander and laid it on the grass, it had died anyway.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. Time is 5:49. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Labour government has come under fire once again for handing over yet more British taxpayers' cash to Mauritius, a year after, of course, provisionally signing a £35 billion deal to hand over the Chagos Islands to the African nation. Now, a Foreign Office spokesperson, so the story is the amount of money that's been given away this time is £12 million, Nigel Nelson, in climate finance schemes. Now, we're waiting to get hold of Mr. Mandarin. He is on the Chagos Islands. As you can probably appreciate, there's an internet issue, an internet connection issue. So while we wait to get hold of Mr. Mandarin, let's talk this deal over in the studio here in Westminster. 12 million quid extra to Mauritius. Why? Surely not. I mean, Robert Jenrick has said here, not a single penny of British taxpayers' money should be going to Mauritius. Who could disagree with that?
Well, I mean, this is broadly what overseas aid was for. I mean, we lost an awful lot of it under this government, but we still have a bit of it. And this is kind of overseas aid stuff. So it's things like an island like Mauritius is more affected by climate change than almost anywhere else because of rising sea levels. So what the money is for...
Well, is that our problem?
Well, but seriously, no, because
12 million quid will go a long way in Britain on sort of like a homeless shelter.
I mean, we've been talking about Tony Blair. He's saying that we should never have cut foreign aid the way we did, on the basis that we reduced our soft power around the world. We want relationships.
Soft power.
We want relationships with
soft power and soft touch. Here is the man of the moment, Chigosi and the legend, Mr. Mandarin. Mr. welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us from the Chagos Islands. First of all, before we get to this money, how are you keeping, my old friend?
Hello, Martin. Thank you for having me.
hello to your viewers on GBNews. It's always a pleasure to come on your show and explain what is British territory. A life in Chagos Island is good, it could be better. Instead of giving 12 million to Mauritius, help us with that 12 million to restore our British Chagosians while giving hard cash taxpayer money to a third country. Why not helping Chagos Island? You have to remember the British government removed the Chagosian, left our house in despair, in wreck. So now use that money to rebuild our community, rebuild a British Chagosian community in the Indian Ocean.
And Mr. Mandarin, £12 million would go a long way to help you and your father and the other Chagosians there, would it not?
Yes, of course, definitely. And I don't understand why putting other country first, why not putting British people first? So one of the reasons we are here, we are putting Britain first. We are putting British interests first. We are here. We're not here for pleasure. We are not here on holiday. We are here to hold national security. We are here to hold global security and put Britain first.
And it's incredible, is it not? £35 billion doesn't seem like it's enough for the Mauritians. They want an extra 12 million on top.
You see, the thing I don't understand with this Labour government, Martin, why? The reason why. Why would you put other people first? Why you don't look after your people? So this whole saga of the Chagos surrender deal baffled me, and it's very sad. We've been voting those politicians to put our interests in the world, but we're not doing that anymore now. Probably they're looking their own interests. When their life in politics finish, they can have something in Mauritius, they can have a bungalow, they can enjoy life. But this is not politics. Politics, you need to work for your people.
Mr. Mandarin, we have to leave you there. Love to you, love to your dad. Stay safe. Thanks for joining us. Jubes and Co's up next. Today, it's Bev Turner. Bev, what's on your menu?
Thank you, Martin. Very happy to be back with you again for this evening while Michelle is on her holiday. Zia Youssef is going to be in the studio with me, and I'm sure, like me, you're keen to know what's going on between him and Robert Jenrick and this idea that maybe foreign people living in council houses might be sent home under reform. Would that happen? And what are the products that the government deems so essential that they're cutting the tariffs on them? You don't want to miss this. See you in a minute.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. A hot rest of the day to come for western areas. That could allow some thunderstorms to develop through the latter part of this afternoon and into the evening. Meanwhile, across the east, it's a cooler day. We've got a high pressure dominating across eastern areas, bringing in more of an easterly wind through today. So a bit more cloud across the east coast, but across the west, we've had some very strong sunshine. Through this evening, there's a risk of thunderstorms with frequent lightning, large hail and thunder too. I don't think everyone's going to see them, but where you do see them, could see some impacts. So do keep an eye out. Elsewhere, though, it should be a relatively dry night. Another warm one to come, particularly across the south and across parts of the northwest into tomorrow morning. But Thursday brings plenty more sunny and dry weather, particularly across the east where it's been a little bit cloudier today. So a fine start to the day across western Scotland, a particularly hot day to come for these areas on Thursday. Another warm day as well for Northern Ireland, so a warm start with temperatures already in the teens to start the day. Plenty of sunshine across many central areas of the UK, but across the far west there is a bit more cloud into tomorrow morning. It's quite low cloud, so it will bring some mist and murk across many coastal areas, particularly parts of Cornwall, southwestern parts of Wales, for example. Across the east, though, it's going to be a much brighter day than today, and as a result, temperatures will climb higher than they have done today. There's still a bit of an onshore breeze across the very far coast, but just anywhere inland, temperatures climbing back back into the 20s, if not the 30s. Highs of 33 degrees are expected across the London area through Thursday. Elsewhere, another very hot one. A mild night to come into Friday morning, but then